All right, welcome everyone. This is the second day of our program. We are happy to have everyone here. So today we are going to kind of kick off with a kind of opening remark by the co-president of the African Society that we have here in Cambridge. So the reason why we've decided that we are going to do it this way is just to give you that feel that we have that African community here, um, so that you don't feel like when you come to Cambridge, you're not going to have people to socialize with, people that you think are from the same background with you. We really have a very strong community here. So our president is going to talk to you, give you an opening remark, then before we can move into the event, the proper event that we have for today. So Cynthia, you're welcome, and we are looking forward to what you've got to tell us.
Thank you, David. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. It is great to be joining in this afternoon. Like David said, my name is Cynthia Okoye. I am Nigerian, a second year pharmacology PhD student, and Gates Cambridge Scholar at the University of Cambridge. I, along with Stephen Ajadi, am serving as the 2020 to 21 co-president of the African Society of Cambridge University, also known as ASCO. I am delighted to be representing ASCO today and giving the opening remarks for this incredible event. I would like to begin by thanking David and the Africa of Our Dream initiative for putting together this very well organized and relevant event, the speakers who are openly sharing their knowledge and insights of this platform, and of course, all of you who are tuned in today. Thank you and welcome. A bit about the African Society of Cambridge University. So ASCO is a student organization at the University of Cambridge with a mission to be a focal point for people who share an interest in and commitment to Africa. The ASCO platform is one for networking and discourse on issues of Pan-African importance, and our arms are always open to anyone interested in learning more about Africa, no matter their discipline, nationality, or student status. As we all know, Black and/or African students are an underrepresented group here at Cambridge. Therefore, at ASCO, we also endeavor to provide safe spaces and support for the African students here. Stephen and I only began our year-long term as ASCO co-presidents this month, and we are very keen about growing and more firmly grounding the society this year. 2020 has been a tough year indeed for many of us, and even especially for the Black community, with the coronavirus pandemic, the global Black Lives Matter movement, and the many other incidents that have occurred this year. I think now more than ever, the Black community needs to come together and we need to support one another. So this year, Stephen and I are very much looking to build more support for African and BME students here at Cambridge. Regarding applying to Cambridge, if you are an African or BME person who is interested in applying to a graduate program at Cambridge, we highly encourage you to do so. There is space for you here. Completing the application process might seem daunting and tedious for a prospective applicant. So I am very grateful that David and the Africa of Our Dream initiative have really done an excellent job with this program to demystify the application process. Yesterday, we heard and gained a wealth of knowledge from representatives from the admissions office, different scholarship programs, and a graduate student coordinator. Today, we shall be hearing from representatives from another scholarship program, student recruitment office, and lastly, from a fantastic panel of African scholars who are currently studying at Cambridge. I am very much looking forward to the conversations today, and I am sure that they will be very engaging and insightful and prove fruitful for everyone. So once again, I extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you joining in today. Thank you very much for listening, and I now hand back to David to continue with today's program. Thank you, David.
All right, thank you very much, Cynthia. That was really amazing introduction, and just to wrap up everything, that was really superb. So we are very happy that you've kind of make up your time out of your very busy schedule to join us and then give this amazing opening remark, which is going to set the stage for other things to come. So we really appreciate. Thank you very much. So next, I'm going to bring in the person who is going to predominantly moderate the next of this section, where we are going to bring in speakers, and then from there we take our question and answers relating to the speakers who have spoken, and subsequently we'll be able to welcome our amazing panel. So take off from there. So I would have to sign off at this point and let Chioma take over from here. Thank you.
Yeah, David, thanks so much. Thanks for the amazing work. And welcome back, everyone. If you were able to join us yesterday, we hope you enjoyed today. And if you were not able to join us, don't worry. We have all the videos on our websites and our social media platforms. Please go back there and watch them. They are there for you. So for those of you who can join us today, we say very big welcome and hope you enjoy the day. So we're going to go straight to the point, straight off to the point. We have Cynthia has already mentioned it. We have a full day packed with very interesting activities for you. First on our list, we're going to have the director of the academic director of Cambridge Africa Scholarship, who is Caroline Trotter. She's going to give us a talk on the unique opportunity that Cambridge holds for a lot of African students. And she's going to tell us a bit about the Cambridge Africa Scholarship. Caroline has done a lot of work in Africa, so she understands the African system very well. She's been doing a lot of work on meningitis, doing a lot of work on rabies, even in the African continent, and the control of meningitis. So she understands us. She's one of us. So without much ado, I'm going to let the stage for Caroline to come in and give us her talk. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name's Dr. Caroline Trotter and I'm the Academic Director of Cambridge Africa. It's a pleasure to be here today and thank you very much to David for inviting me. So first, let me start off by telling you a little bit about the Cambridge Africa programme. Cambridge Africa is a university programme that supports African researchers and promotes mutually beneficial collaborations and equitable partnerships between Africa and Cambridge. We do this in a number of different ways, and we have a variety of initiatives that I'll describe to you in this talk. But we prioritise sub-Saharan Africa, and we catalyse new and strengthen existing collaborations between Cambridge and African researchers and their institutions. We do our best to provide an enabling academic environment for African early career researchers, inviting them to visit Cambridge, providing mentors and advisors. We support training activities for institutional research support teams, try and strengthen the whole research environment. And we encourage, facilitate and inform networks of researchers who are dedicated to contributing to outstanding research in sub-Saharan Africa. So within our network, we'll look for opportunities and we'll try and connect people whenever we can. The ethos of the programme and its partnerships are based on equity, transparency and trust. We really try to make sure that our activities are driven by the needs identified by our African partners in order to address African research priorities. So let me tell you a little bit about some of the initiatives that we run through Cambridge Africa. Firstly, the Cambridge Africa Albarada Research Fund. Here's a picture of two of our researchers. The fund was established in 2012 with generous support from the Albarada Trust. And the aim of the fund really is to support pairs of researchers who are at postdoctoral level and above from the University of Cambridge or an affiliated nearby institution like the Wellcome Trust Sanger Institute, and researchers from sub-Saharan African institutions. So we support these pairs of researchers to generate new research collaborations. They might want to run a workshop, or sometimes it's just travel or recruitment grants. But the idea really is to act as a seed fund to get these relationships going. You can see from the map that we've covered many different countries in sub-Saharan Africa with these awards. And to date, more than 200 awards have been made. And this really helps to kickstart the engagement between Cambridge researchers and African colleagues. As you can see here, there are 28 different African countries on our map. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we were able to have an emergency Albarada Research Fund round and we're really pleased that we had lots of interest in this scheme. We supported 16 projects in 10 countries and a good range of projects. As you can see from the pictures I'm showing here, we supported projects that were looking at making PPE or antibody testing. We supported equipment grants to DRC and Madagascar to help them increase their testing capacity. We supported some open source projects in Ethiopia, trying to generate reagents locally. And then we had support for projects in education, looking at the impact of school closures in Malawi and Ethiopia. So a whole range of different projects which we're really pleased to support in the pandemic. Moving on to another initiative we support, we've long been a partner in the Deltas programs. Currently we're a partner in MUI Plus and Thrive 2, which are led by Ugandan institutions. And these programs have been really successful in again, linking up researchers in Africa and in Cambridge and providing research mentorship, allowing the researchers at PhD and postdoctoral level to visit Cambridge and spend time in research labs and give them access to facilities that might not be available in Uganda. And we're currently in the process of reapplying for these awards, and we hope to be successful at these really great partnerships can continue. One highlight from MUI Plus has been the remote seminar series. So we asked people in Cambridge to provide a live stream seminar to our Ugandan colleagues. And we have a whole range of researchers and they're providing lectures on topics in immunology, microbiology and bioinformatics. And these work really well, especially because they're interactive, so the students can ask questions as they follow the live seminars. The final initiative I'm going to talk about, which is probably the one you're most interested in, is the Cambridge Africa PhD scholarship scheme. And here's some pictures of some of our recent and current scholars below. So this scheme is supported by the Cambridge Trust and the University of Cambridge. We have 5 scholars each year from across sub-Saharan Africa. The PhD scholarships can be in any field of research, and current scholars cover subjects including law, chemistry, veterinary medicine, plant sciences, education, history, archaeology. The list goes on. But what they have in common is that they're researching a topic of relevance to Africa and are also connected in some way to an African university, institute or collaborator. In 2021, we'll also be prioritising projects that have a clear relevance to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In 2021, it'll be our 7th cohort, so it's quite a long-running programme now, and we're hoping that this will continue for a long time in the future. In order to be considered for one of our scholarships, you first have to be accepted by a supervisor in department in Cambridge. Now is the time to look for potential supervisors if you haven't already started. Make sure that you spend some time communicating with them before you apply. As a supervisor, and I know this from my own experience, it can be a bit disconcerting to be told by your department that someone you've never spoken to wants you to be their supervisor. So it's important to start building a good working relationship and make sure that you have the same research interests. So how do we decide who gets the scholarships each year? Well, the Cambridge Trust convene a selection panel of academics from across the university. By this stage, usually March or April time, you will have already been accepted and scored by the department. The Cambridge Africa Scholarship Panel then reviews all the valid applications, the departmental scores and any notes from interviews. We don't hold any additional interviews, so we go on the information that's provided in your written application and the related paperwork. Usually this is a really tough job because there are many great candidates to choose from. We try to find a balance between subject areas and country of origin, so it's unlikely we'd give more than 2 scholarships to individuals from any one country, for example. Some key components in your applications that we look for are a clear research question and one that addresses an African priority and is relevant to the Sustainable Development Goals. A clear plan as to how you will address this question. You want to make sure that this is it's a good question for you to be addressing, and that it is some progress can be made towards answering it. You'll need a strong CV, so you'll need good academic grades to get into Cambridge, but you should also show how you're passionate about your research and about enhancing the research capacity of sub-Saharan Africa. And finally, it's important to have a good argument as to why you should be doing this research in Cambridge. Cambridge is a fantastic place to be and a great place to do a PhD, but is there a reason for being here? Is there a special laboratory or laboratory equipment you need access to in Cambridge? Is the world leader in your research area in Cambridge? Remember to look around, because other universities may be stronger in your particular research area. Once our Cambridge Africa scholars arrive, we try to add value to the PhD experience by holding additional events and creating a strong cohort so that scholars get across different subjects at different stages of their PhD and from different countries all get to know each other. We hope that this network will be useful throughout the scholars' PhD and their future careers. Unfortunately, we're limited to only 5 scholarships a year, but you may qualify for other scholarships from the Cambridge Trust, Gates Cambridge, or various colleges. And I know David's provided you with lots of information through this these seminar series, and there are lots more details about these opportunities on our Cambridge Africa website, as well as the Cambridge Trust and Gates Cambridge. So thank you for listening. I know there's a question and answer session later with David, Damilola and Chioma, and I wish you good luck in your applications. I hope to welcome some of you to Cambridge in 2021.
Wow. Thank you very much, Caroline, for that very elaborative talk. So Caroline has been able to give us an insight into the Cambridge Africa Scholarship Program, what they're looking for. So now we're going to take questions. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. But Caroline, because of other activities, won't be able to be here with us now. So we're going to have Damilola, who would come in to take the questions for Caroline. And so if you have any questions, feel free to put them on the chat box while we await Damilola. But then you can see that there are a lot of opportunities for Cambridge Africa scholars. There are a lot of opportunities for African students all over the continent. So you don't have to be discouraged. You really do not have to discourage. She mentioned that they're taking 5 scholars each year. Like yesterday, just like was mentioned yesterday, don't worry about the statistics. Don't worry about the number of people who have been selected to the scholarship or who haven't been selected to the scholarship. Just get going. Yeah. So thank you very much, Caroline, for that. We're going to move next to go to our next speaker. We'll be having Hannah Elkington. And Hannah is the Outreach and Student Recruitment Officer at Wolfson College here at University of Cambridge. Hannah will be talking to us about understanding the collegiate system of Cambridge University and how to choose your college. So join me in welcoming Hannah as she talks to us about the different colleges in Cambridge. Over to you, Hannah. Hannah, you're on mute. You're muted? Yeah.
Good start. Well, anyway, so I'm going to show you a presentation about the college system in Cambridge, because please don't feel that because you maybe come from a country that's not the UK that you're at a disadvantage by not knowing about the college system, because most people in the UK don't know anything about it either. When I started working at Wolfson, I had a lot to learn about the college system because it is different from every other university in the UK, apart from Oxford and Durham. So, right, I'm just going to find you my presentation now. Okay, can everybody see that okay? Okay, I can't see you, so
yeah,
great.
We can see slides.
Okay. If you want more information about this, you can always look up the graduate study website, which is listed here, because that's got a lot more information about the application process, which I'm not going to talk a huge amount about today. So first of all, what is a college? A college, there are 31 of them at the University of Cambridge, and they are all different from each other, but in many ways they're all the same. So I'm going to tell you a bit about what they're like, and not each college, but and how to choose a college. So for postgraduates, the colleges do not make any decisions about whether you are admitted to Cambridge. For undergraduates, we do. We are the ones who interview the undergraduates at the colleges, and we decide whether they're offered a place or not. But it's completely different for postgraduates. You are guaranteed a place in a college if you are given a place to study at Cambridge by the Graduate Admissions Office. So it's a bit backwards in a way for the postgraduates, but you wouldn't be left without a college, and everybody is a member of a college. All the colleges will admit postgraduates, and they're a really important part of the community that you will find at Cambridge. It's sort of a step away from your department or faculty. It's a sort of a different community for you, and it's seen as really valuable by most of the students that are with us at Cambridge. So they're basically, the college is a community. People live at college. You don't have to live at college as a postgraduate, and colleges don't in general have space for every single student they have to have a room. For example, at Wolfson, we've got something between 800 and 900 students at any one time, and we don't have enough rooms for all of them, so they don't all live in college, but it's a possibility to live there. There are people from every faculty, nearly every department, because not every college takes people from every department. You would need to research that for the individual colleges you're interested in. But it's a great way to meet people who are not just in your specific field. And that's a real strength of Cambridge, that you may strike up conversations that lead to research, or they may lead to important relationships that you have in your studies as well from people outside of your faculty. We also do provide pastoral support in the college. So that means you will have a tutor who's someone who is not from your department, not from your faculty, not related to your academic education in any way, but they will be there to support you and give you guidance and signpost you to any services you might need. For example, if you experience sudden financial hardship, the tutor can recommend you for funding and help you access things like that. If you have even mental health concerns, they can signpost you to the right services that you might need. They're just there to help you out. So we're going to talk a little bit later in the presentation about how you should choose a college, because I've already said that they're all different from each other, but in many ways they're very similar. And lots of students do put in what we call an open application. So that means they don't specify which college they want to go to on their application, and they are just allocated one. So these are ways that colleges really differ. They differ in age. Our oldest college, Peterhouse, is over 700 years old. And our newest college, Robinson, is about 40 years old, and there is everything in between. They vary in the size and the number of students. So, for example, at Homerton College, there are 600 postgraduate students. And at Murray Edwards College, there are under 200 postgraduate students. And the balance of the student population varies as well. Some colleges will have very few postgraduates and lots of undergraduates. Some other colleges will have mainly postgraduate population. That's true of, I think, Wolfson and the other mature student colleges. We tend to have more postgraduates, even though we do admit undergraduates. The location varies, but this is not something you should be hugely concerned with in Cambridge. Cambridge is very small. I'm going to show you a map on my next slide, which will show how even the colleges that have the reputation of being, oh, so far away, they're not really that far away from anything. Colleges have different facilities. So some colleges will have a gym, they'll have different sports pitches available. You know, it just depends on the college. So that's something you can research on the college's own websites if there's something that's really important to you. They vary in the accommodation offered. Some of the newer, more modern colleges may have newer, more ensuite rooms, whereas colleges that are in extremely historic buildings may not have that level of service for the rooms, because they are constrained by what they can do in their accommodation. The room sizes will vary, the costs will vary, though not hugely. And there is also funding available from the colleges, which I will talk about a bit sort of in time. So colleges also, their outlook can be different. So some of the older colleges especially have a different atmosphere from some of the newer colleges. They may be more formal with more formal meals. Fellows and postgraduates may sit in different places from undergraduates at dinner. They may have different social spaces and not mix an awful lot. And some colleges are more egalitarian and mix everybody together, no matter what their official status is. And you'll know which ones they are because they will definitely tell you about it, like Wolfson does. If you are thinking about becoming a part-time student, not all colleges do accept part-time students. So just bear that in mind if you're thinking about studying part-time. Right, so here is my map. This is the centre of Cambridge here. Hopefully you can see my pointer there. So just as an example, we've got Wolfson College down here. People often say that Wolfson is so far from the centre of town, but the blue parts of the map are where a lot of the studying is done, or lectures may take place, or labs are. So I sort of consider the very centre of Cambridge to be here at the new museum site, the centre of the city centre. So from Wolfson to here, it takes 22 minutes to walk and 6 minutes on a bike. So it's not, you can see it's not really very far. And one of the other furthest away colleges is Homerton, and here, down here in the bottom right corner, that is a 30-minute walk to the centre of town and an 8-minute cycle ride. The two furthest apart places I could come up with is Hughes Hall, which is a mature college, and the West Cambridge site, which is over here. There's a lot of laboratories there, and some of the medical research happens over there. That is a 45-minute walk across here and a 14-minute cycle ride. So I personally don't think that where a college is massively relevant to whether you choose it or not. Some people like to be really close to their department. At Wolfson, we do have a lot of law students because we're very close to the law faculty, but it's not a huge concern really. Right, so I'm going to tell you a bit about a few of the colleges. We have two colleges at Cambridge which are only for postgraduate students. That's Clare Hall and Darwin College. Clare Hall is small, it only has about 200 students, and Darwin's quite big, it's got about 650, all postgraduates. So those colleges are available to you if you want to be within a community that is only postgraduates. We also have the mature colleges, of which Wolfson that I work for is one of. And St Edmunds and Hughes Hall are the other two. We do accept undergraduates, but everybody must be over the age of 21 when they start. So that is popular with some postgraduate students who are hard at work and maybe feel that a large undergraduate population would be distracting. Everyone's different. Everyone has different preferences there. We also have two all-female colleges which only admit students who identify as women. That's Murray Edwards and Newnham. I know some people feel that they want to discount these because they feel that they don't want to narrow their social circle, but that's not really the case. You're allowed guests in the female colleges, and everything else you do in the university is mixed. Your teaching will be mixed, your other studying will be mixed, so it doesn't really narrow your social circle. And they are really focused on the preferences and needs of female students. So that could be worth considering. Right, so I've already mentioned that all postgraduate students become a member of a college. When you apply, you can choose two college preferences on your application or make an open application. So about 60% of students do get one of their two college choices. If you make an open application or select colleges, it doesn't make a difference to whether you will be offered a place or not. You're not more likely to be offered a place because you've picked an open application or because you've picked Trinity or Homerton. You know, it doesn't matter what you say there. It's often to do more about balancing numbers across the university. So if you don't get a place at one of your choices, it could be that they've already taken as many postgraduate students as they are allowed for that year or as they can fit in. And you may then be accepted by a different college, but you will be accepted by a college definitely if you have a formal offer of admission. How would you choose a college? Well, this is a very personal choice. So think about what matters to you. Do you want there to be lots of other students in your subject, or would prefer that there weren't, so you meet more people? Do you want a very diverse college, a very international atmosphere? Some colleges have a higher international population than others. Do you want there to be lots of other postgraduates or older students, like over 21? Do you want opportunities in particular sports? Some colleges are particularly strong on some sports over others. Are you looking for funding particularly? So one of the comments that one of the Wolfson students made to me, which always makes me smile, was that they didn't want to be around a lot of 18-year-olds reminding them of how old they were getting, which is daft really, because he wasn't that old at all. But people, appreciate that quieter atmosphere that some of the colleges have. And what's the atmosphere of the college like? Do you prefer somewhere where everyone is mixed, or do you want your social spaces separate and to have more the tradition of a high table with fellows on it and things like that? So I know people who have chosen their college based on the fact that they would give them a £400 travel grant during their PhD. So people's reasons for picking a college can be quite varied and seem quite small, but you just need to look into it for yourself. If you look at the college websites, many have excellent virtual tours where you can look around the campus, and you can register online for lots of Meet the Current Student events, sort of live webinar panels like this one, and also admissions clinic type things. We have at the beginning of November, I believe it's the 6th of November, a postgraduate open day. And actually it's a benefit this year that it is all online, so you will be able to access that from wherever you are in the world. You don't need to be in the same college as your supervisor, that's important to know. So I would say the reasons not to choose a college are just because you've heard of it. Obviously recommendations from real students are very valuable, but if it's just that you happen to have heard of it because it's very famous, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the place for you. Don't pick it just because it's pretty, and don't pick it just because it's in the centre of town, because as we've seen, Cambridge is very small. You can get everywhere very quickly. So college funding, all colleges have got some funding to offer to postgraduate students. Most of it is done through what we call the graduate funding competition, which is when you make your application for graduate study, you can enter the sort of funding competition to be put forward for lots of different funding. But some college scholarships do have a separate application, and you'll need to look at the college websites and see how you apply. The best thing to look at is the student funding search, which I've got the website for here, because it does give lots of opportunities on there, and you can see it listed by college and by your country of origin and your nationality and things to see if they're all things that are specifically open to you. So not everybody will get funding, so it's definitely worth applying for absolutely everything you can. But various colleges have different funding possibilities. Sometimes there is PhDs which are linked to specific colleges, so you must apply to that college as your first choice if you are applying for that PhD with funding. Right, I'm going to talk very briefly about accommodation, because college is a place you can live, and that does make that Wolfson, for example, we guarantee 3 years of PhD accommodation. Lots of people like to live in their first year to meet people, and also in the final year of their PhD when they need to be close to libraries and things for writing up. So there's a huge variety of accommodation across the colleges, and this is something you can look into when picking one if that's important to you. They might be traditional sort of halls of residence style where you just have a room on a corridor. They might be arranged in flats, have some ensuite rooms. We have some accommodation for couples and some flats for families. So all these things are things you might need to look into depending on your own circumstances. So rent does vary by college. Sometimes it varies within the college depending on the size of the room or the facilities it's got. And you can often choose different terms of rent. So you might have to leave during the university holidays. That often doesn't work for postgraduate students, or you might be able to stay for the whole year. So virtual tours look a bit like this. This is our Wolfson one. If you go to our website and have a quick search in the search box, and you can go through all the different rooms and have a look at them basically. But many colleges do have these virtual tours now. I think more and more are being developed for 2020 because we haven't been able to welcome people to visit in person, but they're really, really useful. So I would encourage you to search those out. You get a great feel of the place from them. Right, food in college. So all colleges have got catering facilities. Nearly all rooms across the university do have self-catering facilities. Some of them are more basic than others. As I said, some of the buildings are very old and historic, and it's difficult to make changes for them for sort of modern requirements. So some of the self-catering can be quite basic. Some colleges, you only pay for the food you eat. Some have got a fixed kitchen charge, and some of them you must pay for a certain number of meals per term. All things to check out when you're sort of setting your budget and choosing a college. It's important. You know, colleges also run formal dining events, so that's a real part of the Cambridge experience. I think everybody agrees. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Wolfson because that's the college I know. We've got 414 units of accommodation, and some of them are family flats. Our library is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We've got quite a few social spaces, a cafe, other sort of chill out spaces. We've got gym, tennis courts, gardens. We have a programme of academic skills support. So it's not just the physical buildings that a college might have that can be useful to you and sway your decision. It can be the support that they offer through their libraries. We do offer some college specific funding that people can apply for. And I already mentioned that you can have 3 years of guaranteed accommodation if you're a PhD student. And we do things like a PhD mentoring scheme. We have travel grants, research grants. We obviously have our wonderful Students Association, which does absolutely masses for the students to help them get to know each other and socialise and support their needs within the college and advocate for those to the college staff. But I would encourage you to research several colleges so that you can be sure that you are putting down the one for you, or just leave it to chance and see where you end up. People very, very rarely regret the choice of college that they're in. So, student life, some of the questions we were sent was about this. At Cambridge, you can do anything. If there isn't already a society for it, you can start one. So some of these activities are done within college. So colleges will have, say, their own rugby team, their own rowing team, their own football team. Sometimes they join up with another college. For example, Wolfson's women's football team is joined with Darwin College, I think. And some of these activities are sort of university-wide societies. There are things for everything from sort of law society, science society, entrepreneurial society, anything you can think of, it is there. And if you wanted to do something within your college and it doesn't exist, your student association would be able to support you to start something. So there are a lot of possibilities for networking, extra learning if you want to, letting off steam, having fun. There is all sorts of things there. So lots of social activities, as I said, are organised within the college. So just as an example, in Wolfson, we have a tango society, we have a social rowing group. So if you're not into getting up at 5 a.m, you can still row. We have a law society with speakers, a green society with speakers for that. Music, which as you can see was not stopped by COVID. We carried on outdoors under a marquee. And yeah, the Student Association organised things like comedy nights, what we call in Cambridge BOPs, big organised parties, jazz nights, international nights, language learning swaps. Your college will provide you with a rich social life if you choose to get involved, but you're not forced to. If you don't want to, that's fine too. Okay, thank you for listening. I know I've gone on quite a bit, but I have got some questions that you've sent in that I can answer, if that's okay. So I'm just going to switch off this so I can see people again, because it's a bit odd not being able to see people. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hannah. Yeah, so
hopefully that was okay and everyone could hear me.
That was really
so shall I go through the questions that were sent in advance and answer those?
Yeah, if you take the next 3 minutes to answer those, then we can select some questions from the general public.
Okay. Right, there were a few questions that came through on mine about visas, which is not something that I know about. So my colleagues have recommended that people go to the International Students Office and use their visa advice service. Yeah. So I can put a link to that if you want somewhere. If I type it in the chat, can other people see?
Yeah, we can always share. We can share it.
Yeah, because I can't answer those. Okay, so And somebody said, what do colleges look for in selecting a student? As I think I've explained, we don't select the students, you select us in this instance. Somebody asked what the living standard in Cambridge is like. It's excellent. Obviously, you know, it's a beautiful city. It's small, it's clean. It's not a really big, busy city. It's brilliant for cycling around. It's probably got some of the most innovative cycling sort of roads in the country to try and keep cyclists safe. There's rental accommodation of all variations. So if you want to rent privately, so there's some that's absolutely lovely and really fancy, some that's more basic. So yeah, it's a great city to live in. You can visit independent shops where there are, you know, produce from all over the world. So you don't need to miss stuff too much from your own cuisine if you are coming from abroad. Hopefully people will back me up on that one. Let's see, what else did people ask? I really like Cambridge anyway. I think it's a very nice place to be. So someone asked if it's possible to work while they were studying in Cambridge. Not particularly. The one-year courses are very intense, and in term time on a taught course, you're definitely expected not to have a paid job. If you're doing a research degree, you are allowed to work up to 10 hours a week, but you need the approval of your supervisor and your college tutor to do that, because I'm sure all the students you've met will tell you that they work really hard on their research and their degrees. And Cambridge does prefer if people are not spending loads and loads of time working outside of that. And it should be related to your professional or career development or your academic related research. So sometimes PhD students will supervise undergraduates or invigilate exams. So there's work you can kind of pick up around the university to do something like that if you need to. But yeah, you can probably ask the actual students more about how they feel about that. Let's see, what else do people ask? Yeah, people asked about if college offers scholarships, and I think I talked about that in the main presentation. Check their websites. Many college awards and college funding, and it's not going to be enough to cover your whole tuition fees and your whole living expenses. So you're allowed to apply for lots and lots of different funding and lots of different awards, and sometimes people make up their funding through having a bit here and a bit there, and that works out for them. But most college awards, unless it's linked to a specific PhD or a specific research project, is not going to cover everything for you. So you can't sadly particularly rely on that. So they're most of the ones that were sent in advance. Have you got some other ones people have typed or not?
Yeah, so just one. Is there anything like a better college? Because some people are asking which are the better colleges, which are, you know, least favorite colleges. Is there anything like a better college?
I don't really think so, because it depends. Obviously, Wolfson, clearly the best. It depends what you like. You know, if you are totally into the tradition of everything being super traditional and really old and everything, you are going to probably want to be applying to one of the older colleges. If you feel like you want to get a wider mix of people in your college, you're going to want to apply to one of the colleges with a higher number of international students, which, for example, Wolfson's got something like 90 countries represented right now. So yeah, you may want to go to a huge college that's got tons and tons of people. You may want to go to a small one. That's really difficult to answer. There are ones that are more famous, but that doesn't mean they're better for you personally. So that's the best
about choosing what is better for you, just like you've listed, just like Hannah has said. If you want diversity, if you want a more international community, if you want matured students, it's all about choosing what's best for you. Then one more, Hannah, you did mention that you can have an open application. Does that put anyone at a disadvantage?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, to be honest, I said that 60% of students get one of their first two choices. That means even if you make choices, 40% of people are not getting those choices. It could be that you apply to a really, really popular college that's a small college, such as Peterhouse is quite a small college. They don't have a huge number of intake every year. And it could be that they will be accepting people and find that they're already full before the deadline. And then they will see, you know, other applications will have said they wanted to go there, and they're excellent applications, and the university wants to offer them a place, but their first choice college can't take them, so they'll be sent to the other colleges, and you could end up somewhere completely different. But often people look on it as sort of not exactly fate, but they think, wow, I'm so glad I was sent to this place instead of the place I chose. Every college is friendly and warm and wants to have you there and will be happy to have you. So yeah, I think that's my answer to that one.
Oh, thank you very much, Hannah.
No problem.
Yeah, would let you go now. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Yeah,
Very
thank
much.
you. Thanks for
Bye,
your time.
everyone. And I should say, all the colleges are happy to hear from you. If you want to get in touch with the college, with the admissions department, do, or their outreach or recruitment person, we're all happy to hear from you and answer your questions.
Thank you, Hannah, for your time. Yeah, so next we'll take questions on the Cambridge Africa Scholarship. And like I did mention earlier, we're going to be having Dr. Damilola Adebayo, who is going to be taking the questions. So Damilola also works for the Cambridge Africa body, and he will be answering all your questions. So if you have any questions on the scholarship on Cambridge Africa, please do well to send them in, and he would answer. Yeah, Damilola, just a few questions here from what has been said previously. And someone said that many African students have limitations in research experience, right? In their home countries, such as they might not have the facilities they need, the applications might not be as strong as they want it to be because students from other continents might have stronger applications. And they said, how can they better the application? What can they do to make the applications more competitive?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can I hear
you? It is true that previous research experience may signify the capacity to do doctoral level research, but this is by no means, as far as I am concerned, it's by no means the most important criteria. And I think that the most important criteria for a PhD application is the research proposal. Fine, it's true that there are limitations in the African educational sector to write a good research proposal, but that's the essence of the mentoring schemes that organizations like AODI offers, how to craft an excellent research proposal and how to write this. And with regards to turning our disadvantage into strength, in fact, the fact is that there's so much to do as far as research in Africa is concerned. Those things that you think are the disadvantages are, in fact, viable research questions that can be researched, and our stories matter a lot. In fact, in every research, especially for Cambridge Africa Scholarship now, it needs to be tied to the Sustainable Development Goals from the 2021 set. And almost every aspect of the Sustainable Development Goals are applicable to Africa at this point. And therefore, I think it should be fairly easy with the right mentoring to craft the appropriate research proposal that would make you competitive enough to get to Cambridge. Previous research experience matters, yes, but it is by no means the most important criteria. The most important criteria is an excellent research proposal. It is the excellent research proposal that gets you ranked high for scholarships.
Thank you very much, Damilola. And can you just give us, say, a few examples of what sort of research would be successful? What sort of research you think would make an excellent application? Of course, you mentioned that topics that would cover the Sustainable Development Goals, but if someone, what should the potential candidates do? What should they look out for?
Okay, so I would only speak from my experience. So I am a historian, trained in African history of science and technology, as well as economic history. So you might ask me, what kind of research questions would a historian bring to the table that would qualify them to be admitted into the University of Cambridge, right? But the first point to start with would be to think that, okay, the past influences the present. Okay, so what are present challenges? So my research is on electrification, for instance. So everyone understands that electricity is a major bane in development in Africa. So when you think, okay, this is a present challenge, this is my skill set. How do I bring in my skill set to address this present challenge? So from issues of from public health issues to even youth problems within the social sciences to engineering issues, everyday engineering issues. If you look around you, there are problems, and these are opportunities for research, as far as I am concerned. So all you just need to do is to examine your own disciplinary orientation and background, and ask yourself how you can bring in your skill sets to address some of these myriad of problems. And with that, you are on your way to Cambridge.
Yeah, thank you, Damilola. So in other words, what he's just saying is identify that problem within your community. What is that problem? You might be in the sciences, you might be in the arts, humanities, social sciences. What is that problem you think needs addressing? And then try to target your application towards that, and that gives you an edge. So we have another student, another question here. See, what is the university doing to support Black students? How open is the environment to diversity?
Well, I mean, I would be quite frank. Cambridge is a prestigious white majority institution. In that sense, you find Europeans and Americans and most people who identify as white being the majority within the academic circle, both as students and as faculty. But at the same time, the university is not oblivious to the plight of people of Black and ethnic minority origins. So for instance, there's the Cambridge Africa program you just heard from the director, Caroline Trotter. There are a lot of programs targeted at Africans, and they're not just tokenisms. They're like programs that are targeted at Africans, treating Africans as partners, not just as people who are collecting handouts in that sense. And then you've also heard from Cynthia, who is the co-president of the African Society of Cambridge University. So the African Society in itself also creates an environment that enables Black people, especially, or people who are interested in African affairs to thrive in this white space. Colleges vary from how they support Black people from one way to the other, but most colleges, to the best of my knowledge, are quite receptive, and they're willing to, there is no such thing as this college would not accept a Black person. I mean, I haven't heard of that. People have experiences dealing with subtle issues with regards to race relations, but these are issues that can be openly addressed. I think people have maximized reporting mechanisms to deal with such issues, and very few, if any, crises has arisen from relationship between, say, a European supervisor and an African. There are, but they're quite few, and they're so few that they're probably for other reasons, professional, maybe research, not because they're Black or they're white. So yeah, Cambridge is, it needs, for someone coming from a majority Black institution, you would need to get used to seeing mostly white people. But beyond that, I think it's a place where Africans can thrive, and many of us are thriving.
Thank you very much, Damilola. Thank you very much, Dr. Caroline Trotter. Thank you very much, Hannah. We have heard from these two about the great opportunities that awaits African students in Cambridge. We have also heard about the different colleges and what you can do to get into Cambridge. So I'll just ask one final question, and then we'll wrap up for this question. And it's for this session, sorry. It says, is the PhD scholarship open for BSc holders like you see some other universities, or are you required to hold a master's degree first?
Well, that question should probably be rephrased to be, can you get into a PhD program in Cambridge directly with a BSc? And the answer is yes. Yes. If your research profile is good enough to get into a PhD program directly from BSc, then I believe you should be competitive for scholarships. There are people who are coming straight from BSc and they've won all kinds of scholarships that you can imagine. So it's not a problem at all. It's rare, but it's increasingly becoming more and more popular for people to come directly from BSc, especially when you have research experience and you can convince your potential supervisor that you're ready to do a PhD research. Then if you're able to do that, then you also are ranked for scholarships, and you're likely to get one.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks. And we have one more question here, but we're going to address that during the panel discussion. So I'm sorry, I won't take that now. We'll take that in the next session. Thanks very much, Damilola. It was great having you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for standing on. Yeah. Thanks. Bye. Thank you, everyone. We'll move to the next session now. So we're going to have a short video.
They say everyone has a story.
Has a story.
Has a story.
Story is truth.
My story is haunted.
My story is poetic.
Under the earth was green.
My story is bold.
Excellent perseverance.
My story is resistance. Our stories are ready to be told.
So thank you very much. Thanks. And if you have been with us, thank you. We hope you've enjoyed your time so far with us. And we hope you've learned a lot about what we've had. So we're moving to the next session, which is going to involve a number of scholars. So we all know that making a successful postgraduate admission and scholarship application can be really challenging, you know, especially if you want to make one to a high-ranking university such as Cambridge. And we are not unaware of the fact that the limitations are even more for students, potential candidates from developing countries. You know, oftentimes we have little mentorship, oftentimes we don't have the support, the facilities we need to get things going. So today we have brought together a panel of current Cambridge scholars, and they will be sharing their experiences. They'll be telling us about their challenges so far, and you can get firsthand from them how they've been able to navigate their way through to Cambridge. So I have 8 people. I have Sandile, who will be joining us, Kenneth, who will be joining us, Alice, Valentina, Camille, Johanna, Gerald, and Martin. I have run through this name because everyone will have an opportunity to introduce themselves and you will know them one-on-one. So I want you to hear from them, like I want you to hear from the people directly. Yes, thank you very much to all our panelists and for sparing your time to be with us. We are happy that you could join us. So if you do not mind, we'll expect everyone to tell us a bit about, of course, introduce yourselves, tell us a bit about where you're from originally, your college, and if you can just give us a little bit of your journey through to this place. What degrees did you do? Where did you do them? And in a very general term, what are you now doing in Cambridge? So we're going to have give 2 minutes to each person to do that. And please, I'll just, if you're not speaking, maybe you can mute to allow others. So we'll start with Sandile.
Thank you so much, Chioma. Right, hi everyone. My name is Sandile Mtetwa and I am from Zimbabwe. So I'm a second-year PhD student in chemistry. My college is Peterhouse. So Peterhouse is the oldest college at Cambridge and it's also one of the 3 smallest colleges at Cambridge. Peterhouse is also one of the wealthy colleges. So that means there are various opportunities of getting many awards or funding to do different activities as a student there. So I think someone asked a question before. So what is the better college? Well, it's definitely Peterhouse. I'm also funded by the Gates Trust. Just a plug there of Peterhouse. So I'm funded by the Gates Trust and I'm also a Nano DTC associate. So I did my undergraduate degree in chemistry in Zimbabwe, and then I moved here to Cambridge to pursue my master's. Immediately after finishing my master's, I started my PhD at Cambridge. So at the moment, what I'm doing as a research student is I'm studying novel catalysts that can produce hydrogen as an energy carrier via water splitting. So generally, in the simplest terms, my interest is in renewable energy systems. Yeah, I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandile. Yes, as she said, Sandile is from Zimbabwe. She's a GATE scholar and she's studying for a PhD in chemistry. You've heard it from her. So Kenneth, do you mind giving us a brief intro?
Yes, I will do that. Hi, everyone. My name is Kenneth Okwo. I'm Nigerian. I'm reading for a PhD in law at Wolfson College. And I am funded by the Cambridge Trust through the Rowan Williams Cambridge Citizenship and Wolfson College scholarship. And a bit about myself, I did an undergrad in law at the University of Jos in Nigeria. After that, I went to the Nigerian Law School, after which I qualified to practice law in Nigeria. And I practiced for a bit. I taught law at the Nigerian Law School for a bit. And then I went for a master's in international finance at Harvard. And after that, I went back to work for a bit, and I came to Cambridge and did a master's in corporate law. And after that, I started my PhD. In a nutshell, my PhD aims to design a framework for a legal and institutional framework for economic and monetary integration in West Africa. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Kenneth, for that very good introduction. So next we'll move to Alice. Alice, please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Chioma. My name is Alice Ameka. From Ghana, first year PhD student in education. My research centers around the participation of female in, I call it STEM TVET, so STEM aspects of technical vocational education, which borders around engineering, construction, and auto mechanic and electricals and mechanical courses. So I'm looking at identifying a mechanism which can be used for interventions and policies to get more young women in Ghana to participate in these courses, especially at the secondary level, upper secondary level. So I did my undergrad at the University of Ghana. I read a BA in psychology with a study of religions, after which I worked for, I would say, 2 years and decided to pursue a master's degree. And I was fortunate to get the opportunity to read MSc in Comparative and International Education at the University of Oxford, of which right after I received an offer to pursue my PhD in my current area. My college is Christ College. I call it a hidden gem because it's situated right in the city center, but it's hardly to find. But I would also argue that my college is one of the best, even though it has a very small African population. I think that would be it for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alice. And I always like that when you bring a lot of Cambridge students together, there's always this talk about what college is the best. And so you're going to hear much about that as people introduce themselves. Don't worry, it's just part of the thing here in Cambridge. So Valentina, do you mind introducing yourself? Valentina, I think.
Oh, sorry. Hi everyone, my name is Valentina. I'm a student from
Sorry for that network break.
Makers to understand and plan the intervention. Currently, the Gates Cambridge Scholar, and initially for my master's, I did international health and tropical medicine, and this was my bachelor's degree was in biochemistry, and I studied at the University of Nairobi before working a bit with research institutions in Kenya, such as the Wolfson Trust, and then later on with the US. I'm very happy to offer my insights. Thank you, Gemma.
Thank you very much, Valentina. So Valentina, for those who couldn't hear every bit because of the network issues, so Valentina is from Kenya. She is a GATE scholar, and she's studying for a PhD in veterinary medicine here at the University of Cambridge. So we'd have move next to Camille. Camille, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, hi. Okay, thank you, Chuma. Thank you, David, for inviting me here today. It's really a pleasure to share my experience, my typical journey with the young people aspiring to come to Cambridge too. I remember 2 years ago, I was sitting and thinking, like, how can I get to Cambridge? So my name is Camille Bam, and I'm currently a second-year PhD student at the University of Cambridge. I'm studying a PhD in public health. And so a little bit about my background is that I trained as a medical doctor in Cameroon. And then after getting my degree, I decided I wanted to put a pause on clinical medicine and do a little bit more of research. And so I completed 2 masters, one in clinical biochemistry in Cameroon, and then the second one in clinical research at Harvard Medical School. And then after that, I applied for a PhD in Cambridge. And right now, my study is looking at how diet and nutrition affects people's risk of developing diseases like type 2 diabetes. So that's a very simple way of putting it. And I'm also a member of Wolfson College. And I think that we can keep the debate, but it's known by everyone that Wolfson is actually the best college for any African aspiring to come to Cambridge. So I'll leave it there for now. Thank you, Choma.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so we'll move this to Johanna. Johanna, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Johanna Gaddafi from Kenya. I have just completed my studies for the Masters of Philosophy in Public Policy. I got a scholarship courtesy of the Cambridge Trust in partnership with the Oxford and Cambridge Society of Kenya. In terms of my background, I studied law at the undergraduate level at the University of Nairobi in Kenya. I have also studied for a postgraduate diploma at the Kenya School of Law. After that, I also worked at one of the leading private law schools in Kenya. And I worked also at one of the leading commercial law firms in Kenya. And after that, I came to Cambridge last year to study my master's in public policy. Now I'm done with that. From Wolfson College.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Johanna. So next we'll be moving to Gerald. Gerald, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, thank you very much, and greetings to you all. So my name is Gerald Ahen from Ghana. I recently completed my MPhil degree in African Studies. That's just 2 months ago, and my research basically was on oil development and politics in Africa, Ghana as a case study, trying to investigate beyond the institutional approach of good governance as the only way of managing Africa's natural resources and looking at the interest of political and ruling elites in the management of these resources of national and international actors. So I did my undergraduate studies in political science and philosophy at the University of Ghana and applied to further studies, African studies here in Cambridge, and I completed 2 months ago. I am in Trinity Hall, and my funding is by Trinity College, Philomathia, which is targeted at African students. Also, it's one of the oldest colleges, so that means if you want old stuff and the traditional stuff, you're going to get it there. They also have modern buildings, of which I'm living in one, at which feels right. So that means if you want old and new, you're going to find it there. We are also very much internationalized. As I said, I am on a scholarship which is targeted at Africans. So that means that they are also very friendly to African students. So everything in one. So I don't have to tell you that it is the best. You get to judge it for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gerald. So you heard it. If you want the best, everything in one, go to his college. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we have Martin. Martin, over to you.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
All right, yes. So my name is Martin Waga. I am a Kenyan. and currently I'm in Wolfson College. My interests have been in health research. So I studied microbiology and biotechnology as an undergraduate student at the University of Nairobi. And afterwards, I did a postgraduate diploma at Pwani University at the coast in health research methods. And through that path is how I found myself here studying an MPhil program in genomics. So I am funded by the department, that is a Wellcome Genome Campus, a Wellcome Sangha Institute. And the finer aspects of my research is in trying to map how insecticide resistance is spreading across Africa. So we use cutting-edge technologies to look at the DNA of mosquitoes and see what are the changes that are happening and how can we exploit these changes to better fight and mitigate the problem that is malaria. Yes, so I also believe that my college is the best. It's quite awesome how diverse it is, how varied the opportunities are for social interactions. And I'm really proud to be a member of the University of Cambridge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you for that introduction. So going back, we're going to start with you, Martins. You know, the challenge for most African students, a lot of people are watching from different parts of the African continent. And one issue is some people feel that Cambridge is not a place for them. You know, did you have the sort of perception? Did you have the sort of idea? And how did you get to know that you wanted to come to Cambridge? And how did you walk your way through that to get in here?
I really had that perception. I thought that this is an extremely elitist institute and I'd only find like 3 Africans here. And well, I can't be forgiven for this because I never knew anyone who had ever gone to an elite institute personally, with the exception of a few distant friends in high school. So my path to coming to Cambridge is a little bit unique in that while most people after their undergraduate degree are usually they find themselves on their own, and now they have to use their own means to apply to universities. I identified an opportunity in a different path. I had to go through an institution. So first I looked at the landscape of research institutions. I knew that I did not have sufficient training in laboratory work to directly jump into a proper master's program. So I opted to identify a local institution and do a postgraduate diploma there. And only to realize that there are many scholarship opportunities that are tied to institutions. And the one I am in is one of them. So it's only after being there, after being a student there for 8 months, that was the length of my postgraduate diploma, and interacting with other people who are working there, some who are on PhD programs, etc. That was when I got to realize, wait, that you don't really have to stand alone and apply as an individual to universities. You can actually apply through institutions, and although the competition is even higher there, but those opportunities exist.
Yeah, I can imagine. That was really good, Martin. Like, I'm also learning something new. Like, you have to go through another process. Like for Martin, you just heard he went through a postgraduate diploma in an institute. That was great. Johanna, what about you? Can you tell us a bit about your journey through to Cambridge? What did you did you have that perception before you got here? And how were you able to navigate your way through?
So, sorry, that's me?
Yes, Johanna, go ahead.
All right, yeah. So like Martina said, we're fortunate to go to a high school where at least there were students who had gone and studied in some of these leading universities. But in my case, the course I wanted to study, being law, it made more sense first to take the undergraduate law degree in Kenya. But it was very clear that I would want to do a postgraduate degree in one of these leading universities in the world. So after I completed my undergraduate studies in law in 2015, I then, got work, got employment, and started working, and then started researching on the specific courses that I wanted to do. At the same time, I was doing my bar training school because it was important for us to become a qualified and practicing lawyer, as how I set out to do these things, just to become a qualified lawyer before, seeking postgraduate study. So that was at about 2017 when I was completing my postgraduate study, my bar training school course. And after that, then I was researching on the courses I wanted to do and settled on the Masters in Public Policy. So I put in my first application in 2017 for the Masters in Public Policy at the Blavatnik School of Government in Oxford University. I was successful in that first application, but I could not enroll for the course in 2018 due to lack of funding. So that was the challenge that I had. And what I did then again is I applied afresh at the end of 2018 to both Oxford and Cambridge for the same course. This time I was fortunate again to get into the same course in both universities. And this time I was lucky to get a scholarship courtesy of the Cambridge Trust and the Oxford and Cambridge Society of Kenya. And this is a scholarship which I'd missed during my first time of trying. But the second time of asking, I got it, and it was tenable at either university. I chose Cambridge, and here we are today.
Thank you very much, Johanna. Thank you for giving that background. And yeah, so we're looking at it from the point of when you start conceiving the idea of wanting to come to Cambridge, and we're going to take you through that journey. So Camille, we know that one of the very critical things you have to apply and you have to put in place is getting a potential supervisor. You have to get someone who is willing to take you up in Cambridge and supervise your work. Can you tell us a bit, how were you able to navigate through this process? How were you able to get your potential supervisor? And how did you go about it?
Yeah, so thank you, Chuma. So when I started thinking of applying to Cambridge, because I was working with an epidemiologist back home who I found was extremely good. And so I wanted to train where he was trained. And so I started researching very early, I think around August. And I had registered on the platform called findaphd.com. So every morning I used to receive lots of alerts. So I think around August, I received the alert that the Gates Cambridge Scholarship and other scholarships specific to Cambridge were already opened. And so I thought, oh, this is actually the right time to start applying. And in September that same year, you had a conference. So I had submitted a work from my MD thesis and from my master's thesis in biochemistry to this conference, and so I was supposed to attend. And before attending, I went to the website of the university, of the department where I wanted to study. I looked for potential supervisors. I looked at their interest. I sent a letter, which was quite interesting, even if it wasn't really what I wanted to study. I just reshaped it in order to capture their attention, and I sent it to them. And so about two responded to me, and one told me he would be attending that conference and he would be happy to meet with me if I would be there. And so we met there. We got to the conference. I attended one of his presentations, and after his presentation, I did ask some seemingly interesting questions because I had read a lot about his presentation and I really wanted to impress him. And so after the presentation, I moved up to him and he said, "You are this lady who contacted me." I was like, "Yeah, okay." So he had printed my CV and we sat together and went through my CV. It was actually an assessment. Like, why do you want to do this? You've said so. We actually had an interview, an unexpected interview, which was very stressful. But I think at the end of the interview, he was a little bit satisfied and he asked me if I wanted to work on this and that. And so we discussed on the potential things that were interesting to the department and to the funders like Gates, because he said Gates want atypical things. And I mean, funders are interested in atypical research topics. So I had to do some research and then send it back to him. But I remember after the conference, I was still a bit disappointed. I was just like, Cambridge is not the right place for me. Like, I don't think I'm good enough. I was just completing my master's at Harvard, but I didn't yet have my diploma. So I was a bit confused. I wasn't just sure about myself. So from September till December, I didn't do anything. I didn't get back to the supervisor. And towards the end of December, because I remember the deadline was, I think, the 4th of January. And towards the end of December, so 1 week before the deadline, I thought to myself, I can't fail before even trying. And so I was like, I need to get into this research topic that this man told me about. And I need to try to do something before failing. I can't fail without even applying. And that's how I put something together. I sent it to him. He was satisfied. And I worked with my mentors home, and I did some application like 2 minutes ahead of the deadline. And yeah, so I think that the supervisor sorry, Choma.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think that was really interesting. That was really strategic, like using what you have, like taking advantage of the opportunity, maximizing your opportunity. It's from what I've gotten from your moments is that, you know, you reached out to this potential supervisor. You wrote them an email to say, I would like to supervise you. And I really like the fact that you built up on the mentorship. You had the mentor you wanted to study in the same place. I think that was really fantastic. And showed a lot of preparation and strategic thinking on your part. Yeah, I'll just move down to Kenneth. Kenneth, not every, just like Camille has explained to us, not every African student might have the opportunity to probably attend international conferences, to meet prospective supervisors or get them to engage or find interest in their work. How were you able to navigate this process?
For me, it was a series of strategic decisions. I really didn't attend any conferences or didn't even have interest in attending any conferences. And what I did was, as far back as 2015, I had made up my mind that my PhD was going to be supervised by my current supervisor. I had read her work as a student. I had read her work in practice as a lawyer. And I often found myself referring to her work whenever I needed to do research to teach students at Nigerian law school. And so I just figured that she probably was in the best position to supervise my PhD research. And I started devising ways to make myself known to her before I even put in the application for the PhD. And what I did was, after my first master's, I mean, I could have applied for a PhD directly with my first master, and I actually started applying for the PhD, but halfway through the application, I changed my mind and converted the application to a second master's here at Cambridge, partly because I felt that second master's degree was going to help my life as an academic, and given that what I thought was corporate law, and also particularly because my supervisor taught a course in that master's program. And so I figured that if I get into this master's program, I'd be in her class and I'd have a full year to impress her. And by the time I'm done impressing her through that year, she would have no choice but to accept me for supervision. And so that's what I did. I got into the master's program here at Cambridge. I made sure I was ready for every class she taught us, and made sure that I answered the questions she asked in every class she taught, and made sure I also asked seemingly sensible questions at the classes she taught. And over time, I got the impression that she had noticed me in class. It was a very small class anyway, there was 15 of us.
Yeah.
And when I put in the application for the PhD, I was very specific in the application that I wanted her to provide me, even though I had never discussed it with her before that. And then we set up an interview, and we spoke a bit. It was a very interesting interview. We spoke a bit, and she said she was going to supervise me, like she was going to recommend to the graduate committee that I'd be taking in for the PhD. And then something very funny happened, because while I waited, I started hearing from people that had gotten into the PhD in law, and I hadn't heard back from the graduate committee yet. So I was a bit worried. And we had 2 more classes with her, and she came for the final class, and she took particular attention. And because I felt like that class was predominantly just about my PhD, because what she was talking about were matters that arose from the interview we had and from the conversations we had on my PhD proposal. And after that, I got the message from Alison saying that I'd gotten into the PhD. And I was really excited. So for me, it wasn't about conferences. It was just a strategic decision to place myself in the master's program.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kenneth. That also points our mind to the part of strategic thinking and preparation. So Sandile, I know we always focus on getting, ensuring that we get a potential supervisor, but what are some of those things you would tell a student who is watching now? What are some of the things they can look out for in a potential supervisor? Because obviously before you get here, the journey here is different from when you start preparing. So what are some of the tips you can give regarding that?
Well, I think the first tip is to go through the departmental website, the department that you're targeting, and look through supervisors that have work aligned to what you're interested in. I would say that's probably the first thing you need to do. And if it does align, and you find that, maybe you have the probability of being able to be taken up by that group, then just simply email the supervisor and see if you can have some synergy going on between the two of you. I'm not sure if I can share any other tip, just that you need to look for someone who shares the same work that you're doing and reach out to them.
Thank you very much, Sandile. Alice, I'll just take you a bit on this. Crafting your email. If you want to catch somebody's attention, you have to craft the email properly. What sort of email would you suggest they craft, and what are some of the attachments? What do you think they should add to this? Apart from the email, what other things should be attached to the email?
Thank you, Chioma, for that question. Very, very key question. So before I would end my master's at Oxford, that was in Trinity term, which is the last step of the course. I had already started writing my proposal, and I had already done that by identifying a problem in my country that I was interested in. So I had my proposal ready ahead of the application, or ahead of contacting potential supervisors. And as Sandile rightly said, you have to go to the departmental website, or in my case, the faculty website, and look for supervisors that align with what you want to do. So I was fortunate to find a supervisor at the Faculty of Education at Cambridge who was doing research in my exact area and was had issues pertaining to what I was doing here, but was what I was interested in doing in Ghana, but he was doing it here in the UK. So one of the things that caught his attention was that I had an overview of my research proposal in the email I sent him. So I introduced myself. I told him about my current research. I told him about the problem I had identified and an overview of my proposal. So a brief literature review, a methodology session, and probably a conclusion. So when I sent him my email, I was shocked. Within 15 minutes, if my memory serves me right, he replied and said he was definitely interested in my topic or my research area, and that I should send him a full draft of my proposal. So, I was glad I had my proposal ready to be sent to my supervisor, and it worked. He was willing, and I was sure I was going to get in based on the interactions that we had from my proposal sent to him. So yeah, definitely you should have an overview of your proposal already, because you might never know when the potential supervisor would ask for it. And I think that did the charm for me. Okay.
Thank you very much, Alice. That's really an important factor, preparation and doing your homework. That's really good. Valentina, do you mind adding to this? How did you choose your research topic? What led you to it? What are some of the tips you would share on this?
Thank you, Chioma. So actually, my research topic for my PhD is assessing anthrax occurrence patterns, but this is very different from what I did for my master's. So after my undergraduate, I worked a bit with malaria immunology research teams at Cambridge, and then proceeded to do a master's program where I worked with a malaria lab at the University of Oxford, trying to find new immune targets for childhood malaria vaccines, and shifted all the way to anthrax. So I think the decision was probably because I wanted to do something a bit different. I already had the necessary laboratory skills that I wanted to learn over the course of my master's. But because currently most of the research is shifting towards technological aspects, I wanted a project that handled a bit of programming skills and mathematical models. So I think this, and based on the fact that anthrax is a disease that has sort of increased in terms of sporadic outbreaks, I wanted to choose a topic that would still allow me to do certain aspects of international health, but learn a new skill that I hadn't learned for my master's. And this was really the main reason why I chose my topic. And aside from that, also, you know that currently about 7 out of every 10 infectious diseases is zoonotic in nature. So I really wanted to gain some skills in zoonotic disease research. And this is also why I chose the topic that I chose. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Valentina, for that. Yeah, we've all heard it. Attach your research proposal, attach a CV, give it to someone to read through if you have to. So last 2 months, we had a program similar to this, but on a smaller scale. And one thing that kept coming up was personal statement, personal statement. I can see that a lot of potential students are usually worried about this. Gerald, please, can you elaborate a bit on this? What should go into a personal statement? What should we add? You know, what must a prospective student put in the potential personal statement?
Thank you very much. Just as you rightly said, it is very important, and that seems to be one of the headaches of potential postgraduate students. And personal statements play a very key role in assessing applications, especially at the master's level. So for me, the personal statement is to tell the panel who you are, first of all, and what you want to do. So you're going to have your career goals in the personal statement. You also have to have a bit of your academic background in the personal statement. Why you want to choose that, I mean, why you want to pursue that course is very essential. Because mind you, they have loads of applications that they have to go through. So it's important to know why you want to pursue that course, even why Cambridge, right? Because we have lots of universities pursuing perhaps similar courses. So why you want to choose Cambridge to do so? Maybe it could be they have the requisite facilities, they have the expertise that could support you to explore your research area. Yeah, so these are some of the few stuff that we have to pay attention to when writing a personal statement.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I'll move to Johanna. Do you want to add a bit to this? What were some of the highlights you had in your personal statement, and what tips would you give to prospective students?
So I think, first of all, I agree with what has just been said. The only thing that, two things that I may want to add is that it's important to take a holistic view of that personal statement, in the sense that you are putting in a couple of documents in support of your application. So the personal statement must fit in with what you say, so that, for instance, it shouldn't stick out like a sore thumb. One reading the personal statement should see that it fits in with the overall picture that you're trying to present about yourself. Secondly, what I'd want to say is that it's also very important to look at the departmental or the course website for what you're applying for, because usually the courses will specify what they would like to see in your personal statement. So that in my case, for both the Oxford and Cambridge applications, for the Masters in Public Policy course, there were certain specific things which they expected to see in your personal statement. One of them being, for instance, a commitment to public service. So it's also important to take a holistic view. And apart from taking a holistic view, look keenly at what the department is saying they want to see, and see how your experience fits into that. Those are the only two things I'd want to add to what has been said.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that wonderful contribution, Johanna. And there's one key question, Kenneth, I'm directing this at you. There's one key question that you can't leave out, like we've already mentioned. Why Cambridge? Why Cambridge? Why do you want to do this program here? Can you elaborate a bit on that? What are some of the key facts that one must be able to mention? What should they put? What should they include when talking about why they want to apply to a particular university? Kenneth?
I mean, it's the answer to that question is a direct function of what you want to do at Cambridge, because you have to demonstrate a unique strength that Cambridge has relative to other universities to be able to convince whoever is reading your application that Cambridge is the only institution for you. I'm using myself as an example for my PhD, for the MCL and even the PhD. For the MCL, Cambridge was pretty much almost the only university in the UK that had a bespoke program on corporate law, right, at that level that I wanted. And so it was very easy to sell that to Cambridge, telling them that, look, you guys are the only ones who offer this, and that's why I'm coming to you. Like, I literally have no choice. And then for the PhD, first of all, it was my supervisor. She is a Cambridge staff. She's a professor at Cambridge. She does not work in any other place. And I explained to them that I have always had recourse to her work in the course of my life, as a student and as a practicing lawyer and academic. And so it just made sense for me to come to Cambridge because she was here. And then in addition to that, my research would be relying a lot on the Eurozone. I would be picking a lot from the Eurozone, and particularly the way the UK has related with the Eurozone in terms of its one foot in the door and the other foot out of the door relationship with the Eurozone. And I'm looking at a similar arrangement for Africa amongst a number of options. And my argument was that the UK sits in a very unique position in relation to the Eurozone. And so being here and being able to study the Eurozone from the UK would improve my research significantly. And then add to that the supervisor I want, add to that the fact that I already have a master's from the University of Cambridge at Wolfson College, and it only made sense for me to stay here and continue my research with minimal disruption to my academic flow. And so that for me, those were the arguments I put in, and the arguments got me through. So at the end of it, I think it's a function of what you want to do and how you've been able to plan your way to Cambridge. And if your research requires that you be here because of a specific supervisor or because of the nature of your research question, then you should be able to demonstrate that clearly in your personal statements or other documents forming part of your application suite. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. So I would open the floor if anyone wants to add something to tips on personal statements. Please do that before we move to the next session. If any of the
I think for my faculty, one of the things that I realized was different from when I was doing my application to Oxford was the personal statement was fused with more or less the proposal. So it was very scanty. So I think what I did was to make my personal statement immediately reflect the identified research problem and how I was going to use my my research to solve it. So it was fused. So if you have the opportunity, you should make it clear how your life trajectory is leading you into your research or what problems you've identified. I think that is a key thing about the personal. What has inspired you to choose to pursue a specific research area or research topic? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Alice. We'll take one more contribution on that and move to the next session. Anyone?
I mean, if I may chip in a little here, I would say language, because I've reviewed a number of applications for some people, and one problem I find increasingly has been language. Some people choose to write their statements in passive language. It should be active. Some people choose to write their statement the conventional way you write, and what I say to them is, look, the people at the graduate admissions office will be reading through hundreds of applications, and what you want is for your application to stand out. And if your application would stand out, then you have to think out of the box. You have to use a writing style that is unique. You have to think about how you structure your sentences. You have to think about how you structure, how the general structure and flow of your application is. So I think anyone thinking of applying should pay particular attention to just the writing mechanics of the personal statement and just ensure that try to think about what you would do first, and that thing that comes first to your mind is exactly what you shouldn't do. Think of a better way to write your application to make it stand out, even from an aesthetic point of view, and then after that you think more carefully about the content. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. So obviously, it is one thing to get the admission, right, to a higher institution. It's another thing to find the funding for it. I know that I applied the first time I got the admission. I didn't get the funding for it. And all of us, these amazing scholars, we're funded by one funding body or the other. So I'm going to give everyone the opportunity to tell us in a minute or two what organization, what body is funding your studies here in Cambridge, and how you were able to get into it. What extra thing did you do? Yeah, obviously we'll come down to the details later, but I'll start with Sandile. Do you want to kick off and tell us who is funding you and how you got in?
Thanks, Yoma. I am funded by the Gates Trust, and I can't particularly say what got me in, but I would assume it could be how I wrote my personal statement. So we had just spoken about personal statements in the last question, and the Gates has very good criteria listed on their website on what they're looking for in a prospective candidate for their scholarship. So they're looking at your intellectual ability, how that relates to you doing something good for the continent where you come from or your country, and your leadership skills, as well as just your commitment to serving other people. So the reason why I actually applied to Cambridge is because I'd seen the Gates Scholarship, and I knew that I fit into that criteria that they were looking for. And I made sure to write my personal statement, ticking all the boxes of the 4 things that they listed. So I think because of that, I'd done very well in my undergrad. I got a first-class degree, and I really had started laying the foundation to do enterprise in renewable energy in my country, Zimbabwe. I also am the founder of a trust in Zimbabwe that deals with women empowerment. Yeah, so I wrote that all in. I think it's good to brag humbly about yourself. Say all the things that you've done that are wonderful. And I think that gives you a higher chance of getting scholarships. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sandile. Obviously, you've talked about the 4 criteria for the Gates funding. Some people will tell you they don't have all the funds. They can't do this. What is the place of volunteerism in getting this?
Definitely, being a volunteer shows the commitment to serving others and serving the community where you come from. And I think that is something that would, give you marks on that point. You don't necessarily have to have founded an organization or started something, but as long as if you've been part of that as a volunteer, it checks that point. That's what I think. And also in terms of leadership, sometimes it's not really about what you've done or what you're doing, but what you see yourself doing in the future. I think if you just clearly write that and show that you want to be a future leader in so and so, whatever it is that you're passionate about, I think that also works.
Thank you very much, Sandile. It's important to let your passion show. Thank you. So Martin, we'll get over to you. I know you've already provided a brief background, but if you can just tell us who is funding you and how you got into it.
I am funded by my department, that is the Wellcome Sanger Institute. So I'm here under the auspices of a very large network that is responsible for bridging the gap of a deficiency in the number of PhDs across Africa. So the African Academy of Sciences has an executive arm called IESA that is supposed to set the agenda and provide funding for multiple institutes across Africa to train and provide a very clear career path for young aspiring scientists. So the IESA program funds a Deltas program, which in total funds around 11 unique programs across Africa. And these unique programs are also spread in around 54 institutions. So I come from one of them. So what happened was when I left my undergraduate degree, I had made the mistake of not forming meaningful professional relationships with my lecturers. So I had no one to write recommendation letters for me, and I really did not have someone to put in my CV. So that mistake, I can attribute it to leading me here, because at that point I realized that I need to change my strategy completely. I could no longer rely on the foundations I put in place as an undergraduate student. So at that point, I applied to one of these institutions that is also one of these institutions that is funded by Deltas, which is a Cambridge Wellcome Trust Research Program, which has a particular program called IDEAL. So while I was at IDEAL, I did my postgraduate diploma, and I became aware that the Wellcome Sanger Institute is partnering with many institutions across low and middle income countries. And so I applied competitively for that position. So, which brings me to the point that without being a student in Cambridge Wellcome Trust, I would have not had of this scholarship opportunity, and I will also not be eligible for it.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Quite
Again, the power of professional relationship and laying a good foundation. Thank you very much for those key points there. Camille, we want to hear from you a bit about your funding body and how you got here.
Thank you, Chuma. So I'm funded by the Islamic Development Bank, Cambridge International Scholarship. So that's a joint funding between the Islamic Development Bank and the Cambridge Trust. And so this is a scholarship that is aimed at some developing countries. And I remember when I was applying, I had weighed that scholarship very low because I actually thought it was aimed at Muslims, so the Muslim community. Even though they had said my country was eligible, I had weighed it very low because I thought they are not going to leave all the Muslims in the country and select me. But then I had a lesson from my previous master's at Harvard where I didn't apply for a scholarship that was aimed at people coming from the MENA region, that's the Middle East and North Africa. And I had someone else from Central Africa who got the scholarship. And so I spent the whole year blaming myself as to why I had disqualified myself for something that I could get. So because of that, I was encouraged to apply for this Islamic Development Bank, even though I thought I didn't really fit into the criteria. And so one advice that I really wanted to share today is, as Ellen said yesterday, don't disqualify yourself, just apply very widely and then let them do the rest. Like if you feel that you have 1% chance of being eligible for a scholarship, just go in for that. And yeah, that's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Camille. Again and again. I like it that you keep re-emphasizing the fact that don't fail before you apply, because obviously the only no you will get is that you haven't applied. So do that extra work. Go ahead and apply. Alice, can you tell us who your funders are and how you got that?
Yeah, thank you, Choma, and thanks to our audience for their time. So I'm funded by the government of Ghana through the Scholarship Secretariat, which is the education funding scholarship body in Ghana. So I think one of the things that I did, like I'm a very pragmatic person. I want to fit into some sort of area where I know I'm going to directly fit into practice. So one of the things that I did is look at our education system and read the agenda, the education strategy plan of the government, and see where the government was going in the next 10, 15, 20 years, a long-term agenda. And one of the things that came up and that was interesting was getting young women into technical vocational education in Ghana. And when I did the analysis, I realized that I identified in a school or in a class, there's 53:3 ratio of boys to girls, which is extremely low, which is even lower than 2% and in some cases than 1%. So I decided to do my research and identify a mechanism to help the government tackle the problem. So I think my scholarship is probably related to the government agenda in relation to how to get more young women into pursuing specifically STEM areas in technical vocational education, which over the years has not only suffered little participation of females, but equally suffered the issue of attractiveness. But as Africa, Ghana, all over the world, we continue to speak about development. Definitely young women are part of that development, and technical vocational education has proven itself to be one of the key areas of education in development. Yeah, so
Thank you so much, Alice. I must say that was really futuristic and forward thinking.
yes.
Like doing your underground work and thinking ahead. 10-year plan of Ghana, how do I fit into it? Again, being part of the solution. Thanks so much, Alice. Gerald, do you mind telling us who is funding you here and how you got in?
Yes, thank you very much once again, Gioma. So I am funded by the college. I'm on a funding called Philomathia Scholarship, and it's extendable at Trinity Hall. So this is a funding that is specifically aimed at African students, as I said early on, and Africans whose projects are African related and sort of relates to the socio-economic development of the continent. So this is one of the funding that you need not to make a separate application for, only the standard Cambridge application is required. So I did apply for, when I was applying for my course, I indicated on the form that I wish to be considered for all other funding that I am eligible. And I got this one. But one thing that I would want to add is, yes, in as much as that we're saying that you should apply for any scholarship that you are eligible for. If you do not get some few scholarship, or if you are not successful in some few ones, do not think that you are not good enough to get into other scholarships, or you wouldn't get any funding, so you are giving up and stopping. So proud to me gaining this scholarship. I had also applied for Gates scholarship and some few other funding that I was expecting. So I think 3 weeks before I got the scholarship, I had gotten admission at Oxford International Relations, and I had chosen a college called Nuffield, where all their students are given funding. So I was really expecting that I'll get that college. Unfortunately, the college turned me down, so my dreams were shattered there. And a week after, I also got a mail from Gates that my application was not successful. Then a week after, I got a mail from Trinity Hall saying that they are offering me a full funding. And by the end of May, I had gotten 2 other funding and other institutions, so I needed to choose from 3 different funding. But prior to that, I had been denied for about 4, if not 5, funding that I had applied for. So the fact that you are not successful in one does not mean that you wouldn't get. You just have to keep on trying, and surely you'll get through.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gerard. And he did say something, even we are going to still talk about that later, the power of staying on, keep being persistent. And, he also reflected something and emphasized what Helen said yesterday. For some of the Cambridge scholarships, you need 1 application for admission and 1 application, same application for scholarship. And they did remind us, remember to tick that box that you just want to be considered for scholarship. Valentina, do you mind telling us who your funders are and how you got in? Valentina, you're muted. You're mute.
Thank you, Chioma, for saying I'm currently funded by the Gates Cambridge Scholarship. And I can say, so I would probably want to start from my initial application when I started applying for scholarships to UK. And that was during my master's degree. I think one thing that I want to iterate that Alice said that was really, really helpful was that Usually, sometimes women are underrepresented in STEM courses and also just generally in postgraduate courses. And I would really encourage a lot of women applicants to just put an application. Don't discount yourself. Don't disqualify yourself before you try. I think in my scholarship journey, from the very first application I ever made, I got several regret letters, about 5, I think, before finally getting the first one for my master's. I think what was different, or what I did differently, was really just to keep improving my personal statement and also studying the essays of other students who are already successful in getting scholarships. And these are not really hard to find. So if you look at a scholarship like Gates Cambridge or even Commonwealth Scholarship, you will notice that they regularly update profiles about the students that are currently on the scholarships. And in these profiles, you'll read about them and what they've been doing. And you can use that to learn about how to structure your personal statements, what you should include. For my opinion, I think it's really important to emphasize your research experience if you have any, and also if you have extracurricular that might not really be related to research, but could help you probably bring out leadership potential. If you have an initiative that you've started back at home, maybe helping the community, or if you have a program within your community that does something good for the society, emphasize on that. And then another thing is that I think this one I tell most of the girls that I mentor in this program that I run called Saving Africa. What I really tell them is that don't be shy, like Sandile said, don't be too modest. So it's okay to brag, but brag, of course, within reasonable limits. Talk about the institutions that you've worked for. Don't just say, I've worked for some institutions, several institutions back at home. Mention them by name, like if you've worked for World Health Organization or if you've worked for AMRES, talk about it. And if you've done research, don't just give a blanket statement. Give a very detailed statement about the work you did. So if you worked with malaria or if you worked with rabies, talk about that research project, who are your collaborators, make it look a bit real. And I think another thing that really helped a lot was to Google about Cambridge, just to look at the profiles of the PIs in the department I wanted to work with. So this is veterinary medicine. Read their publications. If you can't, you don't need to read all of them, but familiarize yourself with the department so that when you actually apply, you know really what you're going to do, you know the kind of people you're going to be working with. And also when you are shortlisted for an interview, then you're more likely to pass because you already really familiarize yourself with the projects that is going on in your department. And also, I think one last thing would be prepare. So preparation is very key. So when you're starting to apply for a scholarship, try to keep your mindset open. So sort of behave as if you already got the scholarship and try to put yourself in those shoes. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Because I've had stories from other scholars who probably missed out on the scholarship they're on the first time and then got it the second time. And one big pitfall that candidates usually face is not preparing well for the interviews. So you'll notice that most of the Cambridge scholarship interviews, like the Gates Cambridge interviews, are very detailed, and they're going to ask about the methods you're using in your project you propose, or they're going to ask about advantages and disadvantages of that particular approach that you've chosen. So just prepare, don't discount yourself, and the surest way to really not get a scholarship is to not apply. So I think those are what I wanted to add, Chioma.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Valentina. Excellent tip there. I didn't even think of going through the profile of current students, but very nice tip. Go through the profile of current scholars and see what they've been doing and see how you can improve on yours. And we also talked about the power of persistency as well. Don't give up. Try it first, try second, 3, 4, 5, and then she got in. So don't give up, whatever you do. So Johanna, you mind telling us a bit about your funding body and how you were able to get through?
All right, thank you, Choma. Let me preface my address by saying, in applying for scholarships, try once, and if you fail, but you are really determined to come to these leading universities, try again. There is no harm, there's nothing you lose by trying again. And that was my story. I am funded, as I said, by the Oxford and Cambridge Society of Kenya in partnership with the Cambridge Trust. As I had mentioned, I got into Oxford first in 2018, but I was not successful in getting this particular scholarship, which I am currently on in Cambridge. And with this scholarship, what happens is you apply to the University of Cambridge and you forward all your documents to the university. If you are successful in being offered a place, then the university will forward your documents to the scholarship body, which is based in Kenya. So you don't put in a separate application. So then one of the key things for this scholarship is then to make sure that the application which you are submitting to your department is as holistic as possible, because remember, that is what the scholarship body will be basing to interview you. So I said I appeared for the interview first time in 2018. I was not successful in that round of the interview, but one of the things that happened is that I actually struck a friendship with the person who got that scholarship, and we've been in touch all along. So I was very clear that definitely I wanted to go to Cambridge or Oxford, and therefore I was going to put in a fresh application at the end of the year. So the thing that I did is I was in touch with her, spoke to her, and through that got to learn one or two things which I didn't get quite right in the interview, and that was particularly in terms of the clarity of your future plans, short term and long term. And this time when I applied afresh and got shortlisted for the interview, I appeared before the panel. It was the same panel I had appeared before, and therefore you could say this time I had the benefit of experience with that particular interview, and also some sense of familiarity, because apart from your credentials, one of the other things that you see, I was before you last year with an admission to Oxford. I am back before you again this year, and I have an admission to Oxford and Cambridge. So in addition to everything, I think it also speaks to your determination and really how badly you want to get this. So what I'd say is it's key to be persistent. If you don't get the first time, try again. Make friends with those who get those particular scholarships and have time to have conversations with them. Thirdly, if it's a scholarship like mine, where you don't put in a separate application, make sure everything that you need to put in that speaks to your strength, whether it's volunteering, leadership, and what have you, you've somehow fitted it in the documents that you submit to your application to the department. But keep at it. There is no harm in trying once, twice, if you really want to get in.
Yeah, thank you very much, Johanna. Obviously, you have reiterated the power of using our network properly. Who do you know can help you? And so everyone listening, what is your reaction to failure? Do you give up when you fail once, or do you continue trying? Now, last but not the least, on this session, we'll have Kenneth. Kenneth, do you mind telling us about your funding body and how you got in?
I'm a recipient, one of the pioneer recipients of the Rowan Williams Cambridge Studentship. It's funded by the trust, obviously. And there's also I think Wolfson College provides counterpart funding, because I also got a letter from them offering me the Wolfson College scholarship, which has been merged into that. So it's Rowan Williams and Wolfson College scholarship. How I got that scholarship is actually an interesting story, and also fits into my earlier point on strategic thinking and just being in the right place at the right time. When I applied for the PhD, I applied for the usual Cambridge Trust that comes with the application. I applied for Gates, and I applied for the ISTB scholarship. And while I was waiting for those, I got an email from Ileana. Ileana is one of the scholarship administrators at the trust. I got an email from Ileana telling me, Kenneth, there's a Rowan Williams scholarship, but I think you'd be eligible for it. Apply for it. And I said, okay, thank you. And this email came in 2 weeks before the deadline. And so I put in my application for it. And it was a new scholarship. It is a new scholarship. 10 of us were the pioneer recipients of that scholarship. And I got it amongst other very amazing people. And so for me, it wasn't the scholarship I am enjoying now wasn't something that I actively sought out. It literally just came to me on the platter. And but then I had applied for GATE and I applied for the trust, the Cambridge Trust, and I also applied for ISTB. So I tried to hedge my bets as widely as possible. Yeah, so for me, basically, it's just if you are at the right place, you get the right information, and if the right information comes to you, and you're able to leverage that to your advantage. And that's pretty much what works for me.
Thank you very much, Kenneth, and thank you to all our amazing speakers. For those, for our viewers, you have heard from our scholars all the way from Zimbabwe to Ghana, Kenya, Cameroon, Ghana, Nigeria, and a lot more. You know, and you have heard their personal experiences. Now we'll open the floor for questions. We'll pick a few questions before we round up this session.
Yeah, Chioma.
Yes, please.
Can I please add a quick, addition to what we said so far? So one of the things that you, potential applicants would also want to look out is grants. So some colleges have additional grants to sorts of scholarships that are not full scholarships. So the grants come in to support you. So in as much as you have a scholarship, you can also apply for grants from your college, which is sometimes bears using. Will go a long way to support as well. Yeah, so that was something that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you very much, Alice. Yeah, so the questions are coming in now. Feel free to just unmute yourself and answer. There's one on the screen. Who wants to go for that? Is there any MSc scholarships in Cambridge University? On the call here, we have, so not everyone here is a PhD. We have people who are doing MPhil in the University of Cambridge here. So yes, we do have some funding for MSc scholarships and some for MPhil as well. Anyone on the panel wants to take that?
So I know there were scholarship for MPhil. So I once attended a session and Helen was presenting some data on how scholarships are spread out. And looks like 80% of scholarship, specifically for the Cambridge Trust, goes to PhD. But you have around 20% of scholarships that are allocated to master's students. So yeah, there are scholarships for masters.
Thank you, Camille. We have another question on the screen. Can we get helpful links or PDFs to scholarships for Nigerians as European schools are finance sucking? Yeah, we sincerely appreciate this platform. Thank you. Yeah, and if you need, I know we have a platform, a Slack platform on the Africa of Our Dream initiative, where we share a lot of information on scholarship opportunities for Nigerians and for other African students. So if you don't mind going to the website, we can add you to that so that you have access to a lot of the information. Yeah.
So Choma, I just want to add that a site that I found very informative, where I get almost all scholarship alerts, findaphd.com. And so I think that website, if you check it every morning, you have lots of relevant scholarships, and it's even difficult to sort things out. So definitely register there. You have the option to streamline your interest. If you're interested in health research, you can give your country so that they can send you very refined scholarships that are specific to you. So yeah, we do register on that website.
Thank you. Anyone else has anything they can look up for?
In addition to that, you can also look at the Cambridge Trust's website. And there's an option where you put in your country, your course, the level, and it will tell you all the scholarships at Cambridge that you're eligible for, or potentially eligible for. So there's that website.
Thank you. We have another question on the screen. Anyone wants to take that? Must one have a project plan already before securing admission for MSc in Cambridge?
I can take that for just maybe one part of it. So when I did my master's, my application required a research proposal. I assume that is what is meant by a project plan, as in what you would want to do when you take up that course of study. But I understand even in one department, supervisors can differ Some supervisors may already have a project plan outlined for you and they just need someone who's going to take it up for them. In that case, sometimes you might not be required to send in a project plan or a research proposal. But I think for majority of research-based or even maybe just study-based programs, you indeed have to have an outline of at least what you intend to do when you're beginning your course of
Thank you,
study.
Sandile.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, please.
So for my course, which is the Masters in Public Policy, there is no specific requirement to have a project plan. And perhaps my response to this question would be, I'd encourage potential applicants to actually research on their program that they intend to take here, because the information on the website is usually quite accurate. So in my case, you don't need to have a project plan, but they are very clear on what you need to apply, pieces of writing and what have you, but you don't need to have a project plan to get in. And I think that also obtains for some of the other MPhils. But I think the key thing, as was said by one of the speakers yesterday, just do thorough research, and there's enough information on the websites. You can consult all of us who are speaking here and other students who are also on the programs that you want to get into. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Martin, before we have more questions, you want to share a bit of your experience in Cambridge? What has it been like?
Well, I didn't know what to expect when I came here. This was the first time for me to leave Africa, and I had really spent a little time outside Kenya, and it was just to the neighboring countries, Tanzania. So I had absolutely no idea about what I was going to find. However, the experience has been very pleasant. I have made very good friends. I have come to realize that especially when you feel like you're one of those people who is closeted and you have an introverted temperament, sometimes help is just a simple request away. You might feel like you are lost and you have no one to talk to. But if you don't make that first step and try to know people, then you'll always be locked up in this mental prison. So I managed to get out of my shell, and I have joined very interesting societies. I have played a lot of chess, and I think that was one of the things that I was really looking forward to. So far, it's been amazing. I really cannot compare the experience of Cambridge to anywhere else I've been in my life.
Thank you very much, Martin. And I think that also answers one of the questions we got. Someone said they have realized that most people on Cambridge scholarships are people that have done probably a master's degree abroad outside their own country in the Western world. But now you're beginning to hear from our current students that not everyone has done like another degree outside the country. There are people who are coming straight from Africa into Cambridge and into most of these places. Before we go on with the question, please would really appreciate if you help us to fill the feedback form. It is pinned on the YouTube comment. So if you're watching us from YouTube, please do well to help us fill in the feedback form. It will help us improve and plan for our future programs better. Yeah, so there's this question on the screen. If it's not there, I can yeah, so someone did ask about the possibility of having family in Cambridge. They're like, is it possible to have your family here in Cambridge while you're studying? Anyone wants to take that?
I don't have a family in Cambridge, but I know other African students who do have their families here. Yeah, so sometimes either one of the parents is a student, sometimes both couples are students, and yeah, so I think it's possible from what I know of other African students here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alice. Yes, it is possible for you to have your family here. There are a number of us that have families here, and depending on the college you go to, they also have family accommodation. So if you intend to come with your families, you should research as well to know what college would provide accommodation for you and your family. We have a question on the screen. Is it good to transition immediately from master's to PhD or work a bit before going ahead? Anyone wants to take that? Valentina, do you want to help with that? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll take it. So I think this really depends on someone's decision. I think from my perspective, most of the scholarships that I've encountered usually have an age limit. And this is one of the things that really affects more maybe mature students, is that if you have a scholarship, for instance, I'll just talk about different ones, like the Rhodes Scholarship in Kenya. I think the cutoff age is 24 or 25. Some scholarships have different cutoff ages for masters, maybe 30 years or 35. So in terms of just transitioning immediately from master's to PhD, be careful about age limits. It's your choice. You can work and then do your PhD scholarship. But if age is catching up with you, probably it's easier to get it over with. But also another thing that helps a lot when you're applying for PhD scholarships is that it's good to have a nice research profile. Maybe if you've done a bit of work before applying for a PhD, it really demonstrates that you're a strong candidate. So it has its pros and cons. But I think taking some time off and doing some work is okay. Transitioning immediately is okay. And also you find scholarships that offer you immediate funding if you want to move from your master's to PhD. I think one of the ones I know is Rhodes is good with that. With Gates Cambridge, I know there are a number of scholars who started off as MPhil students, so masters by research, and ended up transitioning immediately to PhD studies. The main advantage of this is that you can just continue with the topic you are doing for your master's and expand it and do it for your PhD. Another advantage is that you're already in the school zone. So probably it's easier just to keep going at it and get it out of the way. Because I've had some students, or former students, saying that after they finish their master's and start working, they end up sort of not being very motivated to go back to school. So this one really depends on the individual. I would go for doing it immediately. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, I think you summed it up very well. It depends on the individual. It depends on your goal. It depends on what you want to achieve. And it's just individualistic. Like whatever works for you is fine. But then be mindful that some scholarships will have caps and others will have no age limit. There's a question on the screen. Sandile, do you want to go with this?
I would think that maybe Cambridge Africa research funds might be suitable for this question, where it might help in funding researchers who are in, say, Nigeria. But I guess that also depends on whether there's enough linkage between the supervisors that you have in Africa and a supervisor that is here in the United Kingdom. For example, my supervisor, he has been linked up with a supervisor in Zimbabwe, and they're working together on one project. It's funded by, well, not really Cambridge, but the Royal Society, but it's a linkage between Cambridge and Zimbabwe. So it actually does fund some part of the research that's done in Zimbabwe, and some of it is also done in the UK. So I would advise, if possible, to maybe look up Cambridge Africa, because I think they spoke about it when they were doing their research, like the Albarada Research Fund, which is probably a good place to start if you'd want something like that.
Thank you. The next question, Kenneth, do you want to take this?
Why do most African applicants often have to get 2 masters before? Well, that's an interesting question. I don't think it's by design. I think maybe it's coincidence. I mean, in my PhD cohort at the Faculty of Law, a couple of us have 2 master's degrees, non-Africans particularly. So I don't think it's something that is unique to Africans. I just feel that to carry on research at this level, there's a lot of background knowledge that you need. And if you know that you need that background knowledge, you take all the steps necessary to get that background knowledge. And that often requires some work experience, sometimes multiple master's degrees, if that's necessary, before you put your hat in the ring for a PhD. So I think it's just a function of our awareness of the need to carry on research at a certain level, and knowing that we need to plug all the knowledge gaps that and acquire all the knowledge that we need to carry on that research. And then in addition to that, if you're coming from Africa, it's just known that you'd have to fight twice as hard to get some of these things. So if you think that I don't think doing the bare minimum will be sufficient to cut it for you in most cases. So I think that if you feel that you have knowledge gaps, which is what I felt, which is what many people have spoken to, even my friends from Brazil and some from the US, and one from Germany who has 3 master's degrees and is completing a PhD now. All of those were informed by the need to fill knowledge gaps, and not because it's like maybe an unwritten convention that you need multiple master's degrees to get in. So,
yeah. Thanks. Camille, do you want to just add to that? Just briefly.
Yes, Chioma. So I also hold 2 masters, but I can actually confirm that only 1 master's played my admission to Cambridge, and that's my master's from Cameroon, because I was still halfway with the master's from Harvard when I applied. So I just needed to show that I would have completed the master's at Harvard by the time my admission in Cambridge would be starting. So the admission at Harvard, the master's at Harvard did not count, and only my master's in clinical biochemistry from Cameroon actually counted. And so, yeah, I know many people see me and they assume that it's because of my master's at Harvard that I got admission here. But that's a wrong assumption. So if you did well in your master's from wherever country in Africa you are, I think you can be admitted directly into a PhD program without having to do another master's in the Western countries.
Yeah, thank you very much. Gerard, just direct a question to you. What's your experience as a Black student in Cambridge? Like, how inclusive do you see Cambridge for those who are looking to apply to Cambridge?
Well, very, very interesting question. In terms of inclusivity, inclusiveness, when it comes to Trinity Hall in particular, I think there are a lot of Black students here in Cambridge, in Trinity Hall in particular. And often, events that are being organized by the college is done such that they give avenues for Black people to also participate in there. I wouldn't dispute that there may be some Black students who, because of their skin color, may feel that they've been stigmatized, discriminated, or isolated in some circumstances. Even in an event where you see those stuff, they are quite rare. And if you do take the necessary steps, I'm pretty sure that authorities will take the necessary action to mitigate such discrimination.
Thank you very much. Just to let you know that Cambridge is very inclusive for everyone. Johanna, do you want to take the next question, please? Sorry, we can't hear you, Johanna. Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute. I can see the question is about whether there are scholarships which come directly with admissions and applications for life sciences. I'm not sure I'm the one who's best placed to comment on this, given my course is not in the life sciences. But what I'd say is really there are some which should be available, and perhaps I can pass that to somebody. I don't know if it's Waga, I think, or somebody who's in the life sciences. Be better placed to respond.
All right, I can take that. So yes, there are specific scholarship programs for specific courses, if my interpretation of that question is accurate, because it says that come directly with admission applications. So this is why I mentioned that it is important, if you are trying to pursue a career in life sciences, to look at whether you can leverage on institutions, because institutions are usually aware of the kind of programs that usually enjoy such kind of funding, unique funding opportunities. So the funding program I am in is unique that it is only given to students who are pursuing an MPhil in genomics course. And it is more unusual in the sense that it is not a periodic repetitive scholarship program. It's not the kind of scholarship that opens every year. So it is an occasional scholarship opportunity. So these ones are usually very difficult to target, especially when you're outside and you're just trying to make your way on your own. But there are very strategic ways of approaching such kind of scholarship programs. For example, by pursuing an internship opportunity in an institution that is affiliated with the institution that you want to do your master's or PhD in. And while you're an intern there, now that you've been integrated into that institution, you can ask the training officers or people who are dealing with the issues of education to point you to this specific niche scholarship programs for your specific subject of interest. And Cambridge is one of these institutions that has such very unique niche kind of scholarships. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much, Martina.
And Chioma, please, if I may, add just a quick one.
Okay.
So apart from the fact that there are some scholarships that are specific to some departments, there are also some scholarships that are also specific to some projects. So even within a department, they may be providing funding for some projects. For instance, at the Center for Development Studies, their PhD program, they have funding specifically for people that are applying not only to the program, but whose research proposal so it's all in the agricultural field, so agricultural development in developing countries, of which most African countries fall within that domain.
Thank you very much. And just to cap it up, sorry, maybe we'll just mute. Yeah, just to cap up this, wrap up this session. You can actually, for most of the Cambridge Trust scholarships, like we heard yesterday from Helen, some of them don't have age limits, and some of them cover all the courses and disciplines. So it doesn't matter whether you're studying engineering, whether you're studying sciences or arts, humanities, social sciences, but some are specific. So it's just looking out for that which is specific to you or applying to the very general one. And yeah, they mentioned yesterday, yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
Go on, please, Alice.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to mention that something that I've noticed we haven't spoken about, which is gradually becoming very significant for PhD applicants, especially when you're applying to very competitive schools. I don't know if any of us had to see that or had to add that to application, but writing published works. So I don't know if any of our panelists had to do that, but I noticed if you have published either an article, written a book chapter, popular articles on newspapers, online articles are very significant. And also there are other external scholarships that are individual scholarship. For instance, during my time, I got nominated as to an independent body, which is the affiliated to Commonwealth scholarships, so Commonwealth PhD scholarships. So I know there's Chevening. So there are other external scholarships that could still get you into Cambridge that might not necessarily be reflected on the Cambridge Trust website, or so these are things that we could also look out for.
Okay, thank you. And I think again that would depend on your supervisor and the course to say whether you need publications or not. But oftentimes PhD, MSc, they are learning processes, right? They are learning stages, so they don't expect you to have everything. You can also come here and learn and build your capacity and build your publication profile. Obinwa Okoye, just to wrap up, Helen did mention yesterday that depending on the scholarship, some might be expected to return, depending on the scholarship. So some who are in Commonwealth might be required to return, but that does not cut across all Cambridge Trust funding. Yeah, so to wrap up, I would just like to have like a finishing word from our panelists here. Just whatever you think you want to add before we wrap up. Everyone has 1 minute. Please just take a minute to wrap up. Gerard, we'll start with you if you don't mind.
Yes, thank you very much. So this has been a very great Vesta to share ideas. What I'll say in words of finality is that people shouldn't be discouraged. And I've noticed that we have been saying that if you try one, continue 2, 3, 4, 5, it's kind of I just know that it's kind of draw the attention that maybe people may think that, well, it's not possible to even get through the first time. It is also really possible with lots of people that have been successful for the first time. So don't say that, oh, if I have to try up to 5 times, then why waste my time? Not at all. So applications, I believe, would be open in September. So please do look through the departments, look through the colleges, the various funding that they have available, put your documents together, get people to read through your documents, get people to give you feedback, incorporate all of those, and come to May 2021. You're going to come to Cambridge. Nice. But remember to choose Trinity Hall because, well, thanks.
Thank you very much. I hope they remember to choose Trinity College or Trinity Hall. Thank you. So we'll go to Martin next.
All right. First thing is, don't feel discouraged that your grades are not sufficient. These master's programs are training opportunities. They are not a collection site for geniuses. So if you have a second upper and above, you should try. And open up. Don't write your scholarship applications in secret, as if, when you tell your friends, they will somehow snatch that opportunity from you. That is a wrong mentality to have. And in that case, you're actually lowering your chances of, improving your writing skills. Be precise in your approach. Don't apply to 1,000 scholarship programs. Apply to the 5 or 7 that are very relevant to what you want to pursue. And also, don't walk blindly. Try to identify mentors. Reach out to people, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on Facebook, people who have already achieved what you're trying to achieve, and talk to them. Perhaps your idea of the perfect path is very incorrect, and there are actually better ways to approach what you're doing. And just to reinforce on the idea, on the first point that I started with, it is more important to be passionate, to be driven, to have a very visionary mindset, and to be goal-oriented than to have A's on your transcript. Yeah, you will sit in a panel, and these people will be interested in finding out whether you are capable of being taught, rather than you are capable of, writing or solving Schrodinger's equations on the fly. So these small changes in mindset might be quite important if you're trying to apply to very top-tier universities. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's strong. And obviously, if you get to the interview stage, they want to see your passion. They want your passion to reflect completely on what you're saying, not just how much you know, but are you teachable? Are you someone who is willing to learn? That was strong. Thank you very much. So we'll go to Johanna. Do you want to take on this?
All right, so I'm giving my 1 minute wrap up. Or I can see a question over there, civil engineering scholars. I think I don't want to say, well, that is also not my department, but I believe there should be.
I mean, on your 1 minute wrap up. Don't worry, it's not.
Right.
Yeah, just do your final.
All right, very well. Thank you, Choma. So I think just 3 things. Number 1 is if you really want to come to Cambridge, really apply, go for it. There is nothing that you will lose by applying. In fact, it doesn't harm you in any way. So go for it. Secondly, I think it's important to reach out to those of us who have studied in Cambridge to just help you in shaping your applications. It's a very rich reservoir of information, and this the panelists here just a microcosm of the entire, ASCO or the Cambridge community, African Cambridge community here. So reach out and you'll get guidance. And 3, when you get to come to Cambridge, you'll have the full Cambridge experience. I applied separately. I didn't know Martin was applying, but we came and met here, and actually we are in the same high school back in Kenya. Martin was a year behind me. I've been in a college where the president was from Africa, the current vice president, is from Nigeria. So come here and ready for the full Cambridge experience. Go for it. You have nothing to lose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johanna. Those are very strong tips, very wonderful tips. And just to answer Henry's question before we move on, are there civil engineering scholars? There are scholars across board. There are scholars in, Helen mentioned yesterday, there are over 300 courses in Cambridge. And for all of those courses, you have scholars, you have people who have been funded across all board. So just look through the university website and see what suits you and do your application. Yeah, there are scholars everywhere. So Camille, do you mind going next, please?
Yes, so thank you, Choma, for this wonderful moderation. So I have 4 points to conclude with. So the first thing is really to apply. Like when you apply, there are just 2 things you can get. You can get a yes and you can get a no, and neither of which can kill you. So apply, don't get discouraged. The second thing is really when you're writing your personal statement, your research statement, look for things that make you stand out. You don't just want to be a standard person or a baseline person that is just filling up the application. So look for things that make you stand out. Are you a great player? Are you a great team player? Do you have great perspective for the African region? So really look for things that are going to make you stand out. The third thing I want to say is try to be flexible. It's true that many people have said that you should have a clear focus on what you want to do, but my experience was really different. And I think I finally got to Cambridge because I was flexible about my research interest. I was ready to shift when they suggested that I shift. I wasn't so fixed on something to the point that I didn't want to, that I didn't want to even listen to others and perhaps improve. So I was really flexible about my research, and I think that really helped me. And the last thing is, I think it's not all about Cambridge. Cambridge is a great place. You meet amazing people, you get a great education. But at the end of the day, I think masters like PhD is just a tool, and you really want to get to somewhere. So wherever you find that, even if it's in an African university, if it's in another UK university, grab the opportunity. Do not stop your life because you need to get to Cambridge. And if you don't get to Cambridge, you're not going to progress. Like I studied medicine in Cameroon. When I was in Cameroon, I thought I wasn't good enough. But when I came here, I discussed medicine with people who trained here, and I feel that we're actually equal. So it's not just about Cambridge. Like look for other opportunities. Cambridge is great. If you get it, yes. If you don't get it, just move on with your life and go ahead with your education. So thank you, Choma.
Thank you very much. I really like that you keep encouraging people. Don't stop. Don't let anything stop you. The only thing that will stop you is when you don't apply. I really like that. Thank you so much. Valentina,
yes,
do you want to go?
Thank you. I think I'll just wrap up by saying, first of all, thanks everyone who was tuning in. And also, I'd like to really thank the Africa of a Dream initiative for organizing this very useful session. I think my major parting shot would really be to iterate what Alisa said, and just to say that you don't necessarily have to study in Cambridge to really make something out of your life. Really, you can get a scholarship anywhere else, and there are several opportunities across the world, from Australia to the US to Canada and UK. So really just cast your net wide, apply in several places, and hopefully if you apply to Cambridge and you get in, well and good. And also another thing I would really like to encourage most of us to do is just to remember that this is actually a very good time to apply to UK universities, because I don't know if probably most of you have already heard about this, but there's a new program by the UK government to give 2-year and 3-year graduate visas to students who will graduate for the masters and PhDs starting from 2021. So if you do your masters in UK and you graduate after 2021, you will get a 2-year graduate visa, and for a PhD, you get a 3-year graduate visa. And this really allows you to work in the UK in any sector,
I think this will be probably very useful to a lot of the students, because I know when you apply to scholarship, sometimes you have to leave your job behind, and this really can interfere with job security. So I think
Oh, thank you very much, Valentina. I'll just stop there. And just to reiterate, we've had a lot about Wolfson and Trinity and Christ.
doing this, you get that. You will definitely get that. Don't give up. Sure, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Valentina. So Valentina and I are in Churchill. So when you apply, come to Churchill College as well. All right, thanks. Alice?
Thank you very much, Shoma, and I would like to say a big congratulations to the organizers of today's program. And I would want to thank all our viewers for tuning in and for showing their interest in Cambridge. I would say, indeed, it is a great university, and I would reiterate that your college makes a difference, and you should be intentional in choosing your college. But one advice that I'll give out is you should prepare ahead. This shouldn't be a 1 minute thing that you sit and say, wow, I've had a eureka moment. But when you have that eureka moment that you'd want to make a difference and you'd want to choose Cambridge as a place that would help you develop that passion or that interest, then you should prepare towards it. And what do I say in preparation? You should put effort in building your personal statement, put effort in reaching out to potential supervisors, put effort in looking out for the right course, put effort in looking out for the right scholarship. Because I remember when I was when I was looking into my college before the year I would apply to Cambridge, there was a fund that I was very interested. There was a scholarship that I was interested in. Unfortunately, the year that I decided to apply to Cambridge, that funding was not being offered. So you have to be constant and conscious about your choices and put in all the effort that you need to. And if it doesn't, as all the other panelists have said, keep trying. And it's not only Cambridge, there's Oxford, there are other good universities across the world, in the US, in Africa itself, where brilliant things are happening. So that's why, to go to where your passion is and your passion can be developed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alice. That's strong. And just to reiterate that whatever information we give here can also be applied to whatever other universities you're looking to apply to. So the knowledge is not all wasted. Kenneth, you want to go?
Yes, I think everyone has really spoken about all of the things that we need to know when we're thinking of applying to Cambridge and indeed any other university in any part of the world. I would just emphasize research. If you're going to apply to a school for a course and to be supervised by a specific person, you should conduct research on the school, that course, and that specific person. In Cambridge, where you need to come to be affiliated with a particular college, you need to research the colleges and find out which one works best for you. So one cannot overemphasize the need for research. In addition to that, I would also want to emphasize language. In writing your application, writing your personal statement, one of the things that can easily put anyone off is your use of language, particularly if you're coming from Africa, given that they always require us to take English language tests, or require most of us to take English language tests. So I feel that if there are language or technical errors in your application, it would really weaken your chances of, or make you less competitive in relation to the course or the scholarship that you're applying for. So you want to take particular care to ensure that your use of language is on point, and also use your language to mark yourself out as unique. Use your language to make your application stand out from the pack. And I would also advise that we also speak to people. That many people have walked the path, many people have come to Cambridge and gone, and many people are currently at Cambridge under scholarships that many of you may be looking to apply to. Speak to us, speak to them, and listen to what they or us have to say, and their advice may come in very handy in writing your application. And finally, do not be afraid to sell yourself. write that application identifying your core strengths, identifying what makes you unique and what makes you different from anybody else, and what would make you an asset to Cambridge. So do not be afraid to sell yourself when applying to Cambridge, to what other school you may be, or to anything in life pretty much. Just never be afraid to sell yourself.
Thank you very much, Kenneth, for that very nice closing statement. And now, when Hannah was speaking, she said something about the opportunities in Cambridge. She said, even if you have passion for something and it doesn't exist, create. Now, Sandile has been at the forefront of a lot of African STEM thing, creating opportunities for Africans and bringing forth a lot of things. So Sandile would like to hear from you. And if you can just wrap up about your experiences as an African student too, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Chioma. I think I'll firstly say thank you to David and team for organizing this. I think this has been really helpful for everyone who has participated. And I hope we've definitely set some nuggets for you to be assistant when applying to any school really besides Cambridge. So in closing, I would say, I think it's very important to be truthful and being very authentic when you're applying. You know, these people might not be from your country, but I think they can tell when you're not being so truthful about certain things. But make sure you're highlighting your successes and your points of strength. No one knows your story better than you do. But I think one thing that a lot of Africans might be guilty of is always being so negative about their continent. I know, obviously, yes, there are a lot of countries that, you know, are lower income, a lot of countries where there's no access to electricity, access to water. But I think besides just talking about that in your applications or your personal statement, etc., also talk about what good there is and also what good there is coming out of you coming to Cambridge as a research student. You know, in your own simple way, what ways are you going to come up with to solve certain situations that are happening in your country or the continent? Also, in applying, I would say it's also good to use very simple English when writing. Do not complicate it too much. Make sure what you're writing can be easily understood by other people. I think, like Martin said, when coming here, you're also still a student, you're still a researcher, still learning. Show openness in learning, right? You don't have to be a genius to do a PhD. Start now when writing your personal statement. Reach out to people who will vouch for you, especially referees. Don't do it last minute because some people might decline and this might disturb you when handing in your application. Also, maybe try reach out to past recipients of some scholarships that you're targeting. The Gates Scholarship is really good because it highlights these people on the website, so you can see contact information and reach out to some of these people. I think in conclusion, Cambridge really is a wonderful place. You can be involved in as much and as little as you want. I have chosen to be involved in a few things, especially in promoting Africans. I was the president of the African Society at some time. And right now, like Chioma highlighted, there's an initiative that we run called Africans in STEM, which promotes Africans who study the STEM subjects here, you know, as a place to showcase their talents, to establish networks and to help them find opportunities amongst each other and externally as well. So if you're a STEM student and want to come here, know that you are supported in that regard. Also, besides that, Cambridge has quite a historic setting, so it's good to know new culture, have new experience, just to know that there's another world out there. But in ending, Cambridge may not be your only target, but I guess it can be an option. So please do apply. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you very much to all our wonderful panelists. To those of our viewers out there, we hope you have learned a lot. We hope we've been able to bring you into our own experiences and to show you our own world, you know, and to tell you that this is possible. So for those that joined all the way from yesterday until today, we do hope that you had a nice time, and we do hope that you will take this forward. So thank you very much to our speakers, to all the decision makers from yesterday. Thank you so much. To our speakers for today, we are grateful. To the panelists, thank you. To everyone, thank you so much, and we hope you connect with us. Looking forward to seeing you in the UK or in Cambridge or in Nottingham, whatever part of the world. Looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much and have a nice